I think that might be something we need to talk about. Not right now. I have to leave for a few seconds and I'll be right back.
Yeah, if you could send a copy, I can read it. Thank you.
Okay, y'all, want me to email it to you, Jim, right now?
Yeah, that would be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Rick, could you copy me? I probably have it somewhere, but it'd be convenient.
Sure, Katie, yeah.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Same for me too, please. I'm sure
I'll just hit everybody.
might as well. Yeah.
Okay, it's coming.
Thank you.
No, it's Jim and he's gone. Rick, are you there?
Yeah.
We are not doing this on the Athens-Clarke TV channel. Are we just on YouTube? Is that right?
Right, just you two.
I was using an old procedures and I had forgotten to.
Okay, yeah. I tried to send one to you a little bit earlier.
I got it, but I thought, well, I already have one out. I won't. So that was something I hadn't changed.
Yeah, the public information staff was having to stay late for several meetings a week, and they asked if we had to really televise it. We said, well, we never televised before, so they're televising just the mayor and commission meetings now. So yeah, anybody can watch on YouTube. We have that address on our website if they want to copy it and paste it into their computer, and just watch it live as it streams. Or next day, or whenever they want to watch it.
So Rick, the what we heard last time was a concept review.
Yeah, it's very rare, but mainly it's to try to gauge, reaction to a proposal. We don't ask for. I'm sorry.
I just wanted the name of it. It's called a concept review.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll give it another minute. Katie's not here. We can be 1 minute late.
Maxine, are you able to remove one of me from this meeting? Or Rick, can you do that?
Okay, yeah.
The one that you can't see, if you could just like hang up on it. I can't quite make it happen here because my battery died on that one that seems like it's still going.
Only see one of you.
You do?
I only see one also.
Okay, maybe I just did it without realizing it. Okay.
Okay. All right, Rick, you tell me when.
Okay. Okay, we're good to go.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the November 9th meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Planning Commission. In response to the state of emergency in Georgia regarding COVID-19, this meeting is being held via a WebEx online meeting platform, which is being broadcast on YouTube. Members of the public have been given a chance to provide recorded comments on specific agenda items prior to 12 o'clock noon. Members of the public were also provided the opportunity to email comments to the planning department prior to, I'm not sure when that was.
Oh, so Friday, yeah.
Friday, excuse me. Finally, members of the public may also address the Planning Commission in real time via electronic communication provided in the auditorium at 120 West Darty Street, subject to safe distancing measures. For those of you who are viewing our meeting remotely, you will find the meeting agenda on the Athens-Clarke County Planning Department website at www.accgov.com/planning. For those of you viewing the meeting from the auditorium, on the table outside of the auditorium door, you'll find copies of tonight's agenda, a sign-in sheet, and political campaign contribution disclosure forms for those who wish to speak in opposition to an agenda item before the mayor and commission. After staff presentation of an agenda item, we will receive public comment first from the applicant and then from those in the auditorium, and then we will hear any public comments recorded earlier. 10 minutes are allowed to address the commission for the applicant or their representative, and also for any specific interest group representative who has requested additional time prior to the meeting. 3 minutes are allowed for anyone who wishes to address the commission. After public comment, the applicant or your representative can request a 2-minute response. Once the public hearing is closed, the Planning Commission will proceed to discuss and act on an item. We will receive no additional public comments unless requested by the commission. When addressing the commission from the auditorium, please speak from the designated place as directed by staff. I think that's a microphone at the front of the room. For all speakers, please provide your name, your address, and your occupation for the record. For those in the auditorium, a timer device will display an amber light 30 seconds before the expiration of the allotted time and a red light upon expiration of the allotted time. So please pay attention to the light so I don't have to interrupt you. For those addressing the commission remotely, will also be expected to adhere to the specific time limits that I have described. Exhibits may be displayed by the applicants remotely or at the auditorium podium. Written correspondence received prior to the meeting has been forwarded to the commission and is a part of the public record. Any additional written materials to be placed into the record must be read during public comment within the time limits previously stated. Please direct your comments to the Planning Commission and not to the applicants. And for those of you who are in the auditorium, please refrain from applauding or jeering anyone who is speaking. For everyone participating in this evening's meeting, we request that you turn off or silence your cell phone. For commission members and others who are a part of the Zoom meeting, not Zoom, the WebEx meeting, please mute your microphone if you are not speaking. Use the chat box if you have a technical issue. Raise your hand to the camera if you'd like to speak, and please wait to be recognized. And remember that this meeting is being recorded. With that said, we'll move right into our agenda, and I will receive a motion to enter staff reports and other documents that have been previously submitted to the Planning Commission into the official record. Jeff Scarborough made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alice and Joey. I think they kind of did that simultaneously. Rick, you can take your pick. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous, Rick. Rick's doing multiple things tonight, so we'll help him out. This is not our first meeting of this month, so we don't have May Court's review or public comment. We received that at our first meeting of the month. So we're going to move directly into new business. Before we do that, I want to make clear or to clarify for people who are in the auditorium, as well as people who are watching via YouTube, that all 3 of our applications tonight are being received with comments. That means that the application is coming to the Planning Commission. We will not take a vote on any application that is coming to us tonight, but this is the opportunity for us to give feedback to an applicant. I do want to clarify that our first item, which is the item associated with the old Elberton Road, had a previous time in September at which they came to the commission for what we call a concept review. There was no vote taken at that meeting. That was simply a time for the applicant to describe their application, their development, and for members of the commission to give feedback. So that was given for the old Elberton Road application in September. They have and at that time, sometimes applicants decide not to go on with the application or move forward with the application. When they move forward, then they are into the process, which begins with them presenting the application to the commission and us giving comments. So in case that you were wondering why there are two for the old Elberton Road, it is because those were different parts of the process. So just clarification that we're not taking votes on any of these applications tonight. These are initial steps for them in the application, the formal application process. So with that said, we are going to begin with the old Elberton Road application. This is case number PD-2020-10-2876. It is on the old Elberton Road, and we will begin with a staff presentation.
Okay, are you able to see this PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is Old Elberton Road, being 2020-10-2876. This is a preliminary, as Maxine mentioned. This will be back for a formal recommendation sometime later, probably it could be as early as January. So the request is to go from AR, agricultural residential, to CR and RS8, that's commercial rural, single family residential, as a planned development. The subject property is located off Old Elberton Road, just north of the middle school at near Moores Grove Road, south of Lim Edwards, nearly across from Pittard Road. And the current condition of the property is undeveloped. There is some open area, like maybe pasture land or maybe crops, but then we see a lot of woodland as well. And there are some ponds dotted throughout the site. We have a rural future land use at this time. And as you can see, right across Old Elberton Road is an employment future land use designation. And this school has a government designation. The zoning request is a change from AR to the CR and RSA. You can see the red area there being the commercial rural, kind of a village town center, either village center or town center. And then we have RS8 proposed throughout the rest of the development. So the request has various residential types, single family, duplex, multifamily, as well as some commercial use in the town center. We have a total of 850 dwellings. It's 233 acres. It's being separated from a larger tract, and there's about 91 acres of open space. There are 10 requested waivers. I'll try to go through these really fast. We have a reduced conserved canopy, 100% in the commercial portion. That's a really dense commercial area. A little bit in RS8. Allow more coverage, lot coverage. That's as far as impervious surface, buildings, pavement, that type thing. Then is normally allowed in those zones. Allow multifamily housing in a single family zone. Allow some residential buildings within the CR zone to not have the ground floor commercial, as we require in all commercial zones without otherwise permission. Allow density within the CR zone to increase from 16 beds to 20 beds an acre. Reduce front yard setback in the CR zone to 0. Relegate the 65% landscaped area to open space instead of on each parcel in the CR zone area. Reduce the required heated floor space in RSA from 1,000 to a minimum of 700 square feet. Allow for some houses in RSA to not have street frontage, and so they'd be served by an alley only, and then to allow mass grading. This is the site plan that's been submitted. And you did have in your packets, as you can see, it was broken into 4 more zoomed in quadrants. I don't have those with me, but you certainly can refer to those 4 blown up areas. So staff comments is the Mayor and Commission must separately approve a pump station, and also utilities wishes to pre-approve for the applicant to get with them to pre-approve the proposed sanitary sewer line. Traffic study is needed prior to the master plan submittal. There is concern with the proposed zoning and in the required future land use designations. Since we are surrounded by rural, industrial, and school properties, there's just nothing like this in that part of the county. Concerned with the effect also on the industrial development, which is right across Old Elberton Road, industrial land, potential industrial development. Concerned with peak hour trips coinciding with school traffic, which hopefully the traffic study will help indicate how they plan on managing that traffic. There is a transportation corridor concept map, potential connector road through this property, and that needs to be handled somehow. I think the application sort of refers to it going on another property. However, it's pretty clearly on the adopted future corridor map, and it goes right through the heart of this property. So that can be handled through open space, or it could be part of their road network, but to somehow consider that. And we have a lot of other detailed comments in the staff report. Won't get into all those this time, in minor technical comments. Again, this is kind of a color rendering of the site plan. And so that concludes the staff report.
Thank you very much. We will move now to comments from the applicant. And who is doing this? Mr. Tumlin, are you doing this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Johnny Tumlin of 240 Lem Edwards Road, Winterville, Georgia. I appreciate your time and hard work planning for the Planning Commission has put into this zoning. I have over 25 years of land development experience from the single-family subdivisions, commercial, senior living, mixed use. We have had designed and built the larger pump stations in Gwinnett and DeKalb counties. I'm very familiar with what the sewer capacities and what needs to be done with this area. The pump station will be paid for by the development, not by the county. I know that's been a major concern from everybody, but I think we can resolve that, and we've been meeting with the county as we go. I'd also like to thank the Planning Commission for their work on their 98-page document that will help with the inclusionary zonings and make some minor modifications to the current zoning codes and design guidelines. The tweaks that we have recommended in this document is right in line with what we're doing with Homestead, the ability to provide affordable homes in Athens-Clarke County. We listen to the concerns of the citizens, the traffic concerns we are working on, and we believe that the road improvements that we will be doing will help the school and their traffic as well as the church. The sewer system has planned upgrades coming, and we are going to be working with them and the extra upgrades that they need to participate with the sewer authority. The pump station that we heard so much about is a private pump station, which Athens Sewer Authority doesn't have a problem with and is funded solely by the developer. The actual sewer improvements will be help the industrial areas next door to us. We understand the concerns of the school system, but right now they're having to bring students from a distance to the school. They will have students next door. They'll have a decreased school bus traffic by Cole Middle School. The concerns about the tree canopy percentage. If you look at the drawings, you'll see that most of the area that's going to be reduced in tree canopy is an area that's all currently open field that has no tree canopy. We'll be planting trees in the areas and make that, there'll be more trees there when we get done than what there is there now. We have tree canopy along the creek and being left in the green space. Most of the areas that's being in green space is what's heavily canopy now, and they're going to stay that way. There'll be walking trails. There's the lakes on the property will have fishing docks. Streams are all in the green space and park areas. We have increased buffers from all the neighbors. We heard about the green belt, which has industrial across the road from us. We have school next to us. We have public transit at the corner, and we have a future firefly trail coming across the front of the property. I appreciate the green belt, but also know that times do change, and sometimes the policies have to do for the betterment of all citizens. We see we looked to see if there was any places that we could do the same development in Athens-Clarke. We could not find a place that had the school, the public transit, the infrastructure, the jobs right in the Athena Industrial Park, and the size to allow us to make a commitment of 170 affordable homes in perpetuity. The remaining homes will be affordable for most working adults. We plan price points from $200 to $250, and there will be some higher, and there will be some for rental that will be lower. We're trying to provide for the working force. Homestead is a mission-based development. The goal is affordable workforce housing. It is common knowledge of how few homes are available for work class in Athens-Clarke County. Most of the workforce has to live outside the county and drive into work. We want people to work in Athens, be able to live in Athens. We are for the industrial growth in Athens, and we believe
Rick, can you all hear me? Okay, I can't hear you, but you're all muted. It's okay. I see your Mr. Tumlin, we are not able to hear you. Mr. Tumlin, we're not able to hear what you're saying. It doesn't look like he's muted.
No, he's not muted. He's still participating.
He's going right on giving his presentation, not knowing that we can't hear him.
Got a yellow triangle up there in his box. That can't be good.
Oh, only a technology expert would have seen that. Oh, and that's gone. Now it's back.
Looks like it says low bandwidth.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I think it says low bandwidth. Video is not currently available.
Okay, well, this is a complication always. Does anyone have Mr. Tumlin's telephone number?
I probably do. Give me a call. I'll give him a call.
Yes.
Okay.
If we are unable to reach him, we'll move forward. But if we can reach him, let's try to do that.
Okay.
Someone's calling me. Hello. It just sets up a lot of complications if we are not able to move forward in terms of time and other things. So I think we need to do our best to try to reach him.
It looks like he's just up, so maybe he'll reconnect.
Okay. I don't even see where you did that.
I think just when they disappear off of our radio scene.
Got it. Which maybe brings up something maybe we do need in this time of virtual meetings. We need to make sure we have a telephone number for people who are presenting. I think that's probably really important. Help me remember to say that to Brad and Rick. I have good intentions. I'm just not sure I'll remember for that long.
Well, my call is automatically forwarded to an answering service. So, do you want to hear from others and then see if he comes back in later? Or?
Yes, while you were gone, Rick, he disappeared from the composite. And so we thought maybe he would be coming right back in, but I think he has had time to get back in. Fortunately, we've we do have an idea of the presentation. We heard in September, and we'll hear now. And if he's able to get back in, we will let him add on to whatever that he wants to. So let's then move to public comment. And so are there people in our auditorium who would like to speak in favor of this application?
I don't believe there's anyone to speak in favor.
Okay. Are there those who would like to speak against this application? Not in favor. If you would come to the microphone, I'll have to leave it to you all to figure out who goes first and second. So
You can,
Yeah.
Karen, if you want to go first. Sure.
Okay. Maxine, she's got the 10-minute special interest time.
thank you very much.
This is,
Yeah, just separate right there. That's there.
oh, sorry, sorry.
Yep.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having us back again tonight. My name is Karen Griffin. I'm a builder here in Athens-Clarke County. I've been building now for 39 years here in the area. I'm also an owner that our property backs up to this property. My mom is here with me again, my 90-year-old mother. The cul-de-sac that comes down, that terminates there on the big curve, that's her home, that's her backyard. My driveway, we have 50 acres, and the 50 acres is connected to Old Elberton Road by the driveway. And I own the driveway. We have 4 houses down on the 50 acres, and we have permission to have 2 more at some point during the future. So, and they're already on the plots that are there. I just wanted to say that Mayor Dodd said to tell you all hello, that he was sorry he couldn't be here tonight from Winterville. He has sent a letter for you, and I've given copies to the planning department. And I'd just like to read you his letter, please. Dear planning commissioners, I hope this letter finds each of you well tonight. I'm writing to you today to state my opposition to the proposed homestead development. While I certainly believe in and support affordable housing and progress, I am concerned about the current state of this proposal for 2 reasons: public safety and public education. We already have challenges in both areas due to our position at the outer edge of the county. This extremely high density type of development would overload our already overburdened public safety departments, both in the city of Winterville and throughout Athens-Clarke County. It would also overload W.R. Cole Middle School, which just recently received a complete renovation to accommodate the current population. The school might not be due for another renovation or expansion for at least 10 years. In addition, current traffic at the school during drop-off and pickup times already create time blockages or lane blockages. I believe that development of properties in this area will occur in the not too distant future, but there are much better ways to develop, and there are too many issues that need to be addressed before the city and the county could possibly support any kind of development, much less one of this disproportionate size. There are a multitude of other troubling issues with the current proposal, and I know that you are all inundated with that information. But I urge you to vote against this development tonight for the reasons I described. Quite simply, it is the wrong place and the wrong time for development of this kind. Thank you all for your work and that you do, and for your consideration of my remarks. Sincerely, Dodd Farrell, Mayor, City of Winterville. And I've given a copy of the letter to the planning department, and they'll get it to you guys. Next, we got together and we have a petition that I would like to read to you that 85 of the Winterville residents signed and sent confirmation that they are against this development. We, the following residents of Winterville and Clarke County, Georgia, would like to go on record as being opposed to the homestead plan development to be located on Old Alberton Road. We're concerned for many things of this development might bring. We are concerned for 800 plus homes and the commercial units that are being proposed for this development. We are concerned for the 8,000 additional daily cars or traffic that would be added to this area right beside Cole Middle School. We are concerned for the overloading of our recently remodeled Cole Middle School. It is now running at over 85% capacity. And with only 10 years, we've got to go 10 more years before another remodel, as Mayor Dodd stated. We are concerned for the detrimental impact on the wildlife of the area. We are concerned for the industrial sites as they are presently zoned that are across the street from Old Alberton Road. These future developments, when combined with a development of this magnitude, will be difficult to manage with the infrastructure presently in place. More than anything, we are concerned for the quality of life of our North Clarke County area and the Winterville community. We come together to petition you to vote no when that is appropriate to this development. And I have the 85 names, four pages, they're front and back, that I've given the copy to the county. Last time we were here, we gave you several points that we were making that we felt like would be the key points to this development. The first one was the school traffic. The second one was we were in the green belt that was voted in 1999, 2000. The third was the industrial authority was against the development of this. The industrial authority was represented by Gary Whitworth the last time we were here, and Grant Whitworth, and they showed opposition to it. Also, we were concerned about the infrastructure and fire, the sewage line, water, everything else that goes with this big development. And we were concerned for the wildlife and the Indian artifacts that have been found on the property. I do want to say that last time we had Mr. George Chandler that was with us, and this was his last thing. He was always such a big person in Clarke County. And this was his last time that he was with us. He spoke that Thursday night. He called me Sunday, and he was distressed because he had just tested positive for the virus, went into the hospital and never came out on Tuesday of that following week. But he called me on Sunday because he was concerned because he had been with us on that Thursday night and wanted to be sure everybody was safe. And George was talking about the infrastructure. That was his specialty. And we miss him tonight. And one of the first things that Mayor Dodd said to me this week was that he wished George was here so he could just confirm all of this back with him. So we've also told you that we had meetings with Patrick Davenport, who is District 1's commissioner. And we also had Abita Thornton from District number 9 come out and meet with us on property. So we've said these before. We're just reiterating how we stood last time. We have not changed our mind. We would appreciate your thinking of voting no when the time is appropriate, and let us have our community of Winterville. And we know it's going to be developed at some point. We just would like the things that we've discussed to be considered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tumlin, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I guess you figured out that you went away somewhere.
I'm not sure where we're at either, so.
Okay. We tried to call you and we were unable to get an answer on the number that the planning department had. We were trying to let you know that we were.
Yeah, I was trying to get it booted back up and I was didn't have my phone there with me, so.
That's okay. Just wanted you to know we had tried to reach you. We did go on, and that is the first public speaker that we've had. Can you help us out a little bit? We don't want you to start over again, But can you identify where you were in your remarks that you could pick up there and finish what you were saying to us?
I really don't know where we stopped off at, but I will pick up midways here and work that way. So,
okay. Fortunately, we've had a presentation before. We have a little bit of knowledge, but tonight is your night to give your information. We don't want you to be shorted that, but also we don't want it. We don't want to repeat.
Yes,
so do the best you can.
All right. To start with, listening to Tom.
Just a minute, Jim.
The point at which he stopped before we lost him was when he was talking about workforce development.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Jim takes wonderful notes. And so you can guarantee that's the last that we heard. So if you could start there, Mr. Tumlin.
Yes, ma'am. Homestead is a mission-based development with a goal of affordable workforce housing. It has a common knowledge of how few homes are available for the work class in Athens-Clarke County. Most of the workforce has to live outside of the county and drive into work. We want people to work in Athens to be able to live in Athens. We are for the industrial growth in Athens and believe that providing affordable homes for the workforce is a big attraction for most industries to move into Athens. Not every project in Athens has to be student housing. We want the workforce to be able to live close to work. This helps with traffic and air pollution. We will have single-family detached homes along the outside perimeter of the streets. Then we'll have alley-fed homes on the interior, then mixed use of townhomes, cottage homes, duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes. We're trying to hit multiple price points so that you can have multiple income people working and living in the area. A lot of the concerns that we heard earlier is about the sewer system. We're providing a pump station that is a private pump station that is funded totally by the subdivision. The traffic study we're currently in stage 2 of it, and we will be doing whatever infrastructure needs to happen there. It looks more like maybe a roundabout at the intersection of Bowles and Old Elberton, probably at least a turning lane in front of the school all the way through there to the school traffic is more of the issue than what the subdivision will be bringing in because it's at different time points. But we will be working on all aspects of it to get good flow of traffic through there. Nobody wants to have to drive through a congested intersection. So we're working on that as we speak. The last time we were up there for concept review, everybody liked the idea of what we're doing, but they didn't want it in their backyard. We've researched it. There's not other areas that you can do this to have this infrastructure, have the schools. It's just not in Athens-Clarke County. We're trying to provide 170 affordable homes for perpetuity. That's forever. That's nothing to be shy of. I mean, that's a big improvement for Athens-Clarke County. And it's our constitutional right if we can't rezone this to provide better for the community. We're trying to provide an inclusionary zoning where we got mixed income and mixed use for the development of Athens-Clarke County. This is right in line with what Kelly Gertz has been, the mayor has been wanting, and y'all have worked on for 18 months. So we know that y'all know what's coming down the pipeline here and what needs to get done. And we're just happen to be a little bit on the edge of it and probably the first one to get it through. But this is positive growth. We're leaving on 90 acres of green space. We're providing multiple price points so the community can live there. We're not trying to harm Winterville. We're trying to improve the entire community. We're not trying to put houses in their backyard. We're putting them in our backyard. We're trying to make this a quality development that everybody will be proud of. And people will want to live here and be proud to be in Athens. That's all I got to say for tonight. And I do appreciate y'all's time and the mayor's time on what we're doing. And we'll see you on the next time. You're muted, Maxine.
I said, thank you very much. Don't go away. Someone might have a question for you later.
I hope to.
All right. We are going now to resume our public comment. And we had no people who were in the auditorium who wanted to speak in favor. And we are now at that step where we are hearing from those who are in opposition. We one so far, and we will resume. Are there others who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Hello, folks. My name is Jacob Campbell. My family has a place at 250 Old Elberton Road, and I'm a municipal government employee. I wrote a letter. You may have read it or seen it already, so I apologize if you're hearing it again. But I just wanted to make sure that our opinion was shared with you. And speaking to a couple of my other neighbors that are not here, I can say that I speak for them as well when I share this letter with you. But thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. To the distinguished members of the Athens-Clarke County Planning Commission, I would first like to thank you and congratulate you on the wise and thoughtful decisions you have made leading our community to become an example for all other communities. Your careful planning, consideration, and foresight have created a community that is safe, prosperous, and beautiful. Perhaps one of the most distinguishing factors in your decision-making is that your decisions are not solely based on balancing financial cost and benefit. My family and I thank you for this. We came to Athens by chance without initially having any family or friends here, and were immediately attracted by everything it offers and its beauty. We made one of our biggest financial decisions, and built our home at 250 Old Elberton Road, which is in an agricultural residential district. Coming from a very densely populated South Florida community, we chose this area because it offers comfortable space, privacy, and safety within the beautiful landscape. Had this area not been as it is, we would not have built our home here. The authors of the Athens-Clarke zoning understood the value of having such areas as this when they wrote section 9.5.1, which reads, "The purpose of the AR district is to maintain an area of rural use and character within the Athens-Clarke County, to preserve a working agricultural landscape in these areas, to conserve environmentally sensitive resources, to stabilize and protect single-family characteristics of the districts, and to promote and encourage a suitable environment for family life. Application of the zone will ensure that farming, pasture, and forestry uses and the scenic values associated with these and the single-family residential character of these areas are protected from incompatible development that could result in the degradation of these values. Clustered housing is permitted and encouraged in the form of conservation subdivisions, leaving large amounts of land in agricultural use and open space. Recreational, institutional, and limited commercial uses are also appropriate for these districts. We were sad to learn that the farm located at 220 Old Elberton Road was being sold, but we understood the owner must do what is best for them. We were deeply troubled to learn that a proposal was being made to build 800 homes on 230 acres of the property. We understand that if the older new owners of the land do not wish to farm the land, that zoning permits the land to be used for other purposes with reasonable limitations. While we wish some things would never change, we realistically...
You can just wrap it up.
Okay.
These sentences.
As a contributing and grateful member of this community, I beg you not to consider such a drastic change. While I understand the projected tax revenue of such a project must be tempting for your commission, there's more to consider. The AR district was created to prevent this type of development. To change the current zoning to allow such a development completely defeats the purpose of the AR district and it completely discards the wisdom of planning such AR districts.
Are your 3 minutes up? I'm so sorry. But is someone there keeping time?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm sorry. If I could just sum it up, my family and I are, we're very much against this type of development just because it is totally opposite from what the area is right now. And we just appreciate your consideration of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Williamson. I'm a resident of the city of Winterville on Smoky Road. I am also one of the directors of the new Winterville Downtown Development Authority. And I am aware of the master plan of Winterville. I can tell you assuredly that this new development would not help the city of Winterville in our master plan. Being part of the Downtown Development Authority was an honor to be chosen, and I hold a 6-year term. And we have a plan moving forward that will not accommodate a development of this size. What is particularly concerning is the fact that there may be another access road leading into Winterville from this property. I think he mentioned our street infrastructure has already risen to accommodate 20,000 cars a day due to the new whole development with the Kroger Shopping Center. Adding thousands of more cars passing through Winterville a day would seriously hurt the mission of our, what we say, a front porch community. The Athens-Clarke County a few years ago did our 10-year audit, I believe is required by the federal or state government. And they found the average income of Clarke County residents is $34,000 a year. The average sales price of homes was $200,000. A $34,000 income cannot afford a $200,000 home. And as the petitioner stated, the majority of the housing in this development would be between $200,000 and $250,000. The existing home salary prices could not afford homes of that value. I want to be clear. I would urge you to be clear that this is not the time for rezoning of this area. Otherwise, other developers will come in and continue to push and fight for profit of this area. I am a huge advocate for more affordable housing. In fact, the Winterville home prices are increasing very quickly. What we need is a greater diversity in our job markets to support the housing prices as is. More options and salary ranges for people to be able to afford the housing we have. I would say ask family what they think will provide a better quality of life. Homes in safe neighborhoods, of course, but then ask them if it's okay that that neighborhood be surrounded by industrial plants and factories, and ask them if they feel safe letting their children play in an 850 unit development. I am one of those families, and I can tell you I would not. Just outside Chattanooga, Tennessee, Volkswagen was given 6,000 acres by the city. They donated 2,800, almost half of those acres, to be part of their national parks. Miles of bike trails, camping, volunteer opportunities, and educational resources. They also offer competitive scholarships to high school juniors and seniors that guarantee them a job when they graduate and also pay for a college degree. So if someone were to ask me which I would prefer to make my home life better, it wouldn't be a development of this. It would be creative options to make my children's options better as they get older. And I just urge you to be patient and let the right industrial agricultural development come at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone else? This is your last. Yes, okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jose Pagan. I'm a resident of 225 Lem Edwards Road in Winterville. I'm an agronomist by profession that I would like to express today my gratitude to the Commission for exploring the options that we have on hand. I hope you're all doing well, and today I just want to express my opposition to rezoning requested by the petitioner. It is my belief that such a proposed change, for many reasons, is contrary to the local and regional planning policy as stated in ACC Athens-Clarke County Comprehensive Plan, for example, County Future Development Plan, and County Land Use Plans, all documents that have been researched and a lot of effort put into those documents by the community and the county government. Local infrastructure in the area is not adequate, as many other participants have expressed, even the developer, the proposed developer. It's not adequate for what's been proposed. The proposal is also inadequate for the Athens-Clarke County Green Belt. The proposal is, in my opinion, is a piecemeal development that would prevent proper development of the area. The development is not in harmony with stylistic context or scale for the local area. The Winterville area has become, or is becoming, a hub for organic agriculture. Small farms are popping out every day there that are providing food, fresh food for our community too. Bike lanes have been established in that area too, as an effort of some of the other groups that have interest in preserving that kind of activities, aside from heavy urban activities that we are used to in our county. The proposed development will create traffic conditions that are excessive and they can cause access and safety problems. One day, for example, the church on the corner had a food drive and it was pretty packed up for a little while there. Imagine when the school is back and something like this is there. The proposed zoning is not, this promotes sprawl and it goes against much needed practice of reusing existing development before approving new developments in green areas in the county. And most important, an approval of such proposal will create a precedent, meaning that it would be difficult to object to similar proposals within the area in the future. And that Athens-Clarke County Greenbelt is mighty thin all around our county. In conclusion, redevelopment should be prioritized over greenfield developments like this, as plenty of opportunities exist within our county to revitalize underutilized already developed corridors and gateways, like strip malls, industrial sites, and aging apartments, for example, to meet future housing and commercial needs. Our community and local government has invested an incredible amount of time in researching these activities and thoughtfully planning for our future for the next 20 years in that comprehensive plan that we just mentioned. I respectfully ask this commission to maintain that vision, prevent sprawl, protect our limited natural resources, and continue to promote a balanced use of our county lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes.
Hello. I'm Kim Birch. I live at 248 Robert Hardiman Road in Winterville, and I have lived in Winterville since 1985. I got Yard of the Year one year because nobody else was participating in the Yard of the Month. So, we're a pretty small community, and we definitely have grown, and we have grown in the right direction so far. We had what I call flannel shirt mayors for many, many, many years, where that was what they did. We had a Winterville Marigold Festival. We brought some people in. Now we have Dodd, and he's very progressive, and he's put in a lot of things to help our growth. We have a historical preservation commission, which I happen to be the chair of. So, Anyway, I was a commercial development realtor for 15 years. I'm now retired. And so I understand this zoning. And this isn't even the right zoning. They're asking for commercial, rural, single family PD. Well, a single family PD allows for 5 lots per acre. So what they're really asking for here is a multifamily zoning. When I was doing developing, in fact, George Chandler was my man. I would take the multifamily map. I would go to George and say, okay, where can I put multifamily? And at that time, it was up North Avenue, and it was out down Martin Luther King, and some areas now. And you can see it's all developed now. The carrot that seems to be the thing, and I understand more than anybody about affordable housing. I'm a single mom, raised 3 kids, and I could afford Winterville then. But the very first phase, they have all the commercial, the multifamily, and some single family in phase 1. In phase 2, they have the rest of the multifamily. If you do a 700 square foot, I'm assuming apartment or duplex or condo or whatever they're calling it, it's multifamily. It's still $175,000 for 700 square foot. And that's building costs. That has nothing to do with paying to put the sewer in for any of the infrastructure, any of the roads or anything. It's wrong. It's the wrong development. It's for the wrong place. And please understand that we understand affordable housing. This is not the right place for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others who would like to speak in opposition?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm going to be a little bit repetitious. I was here last time, and I apologize for that, but I want you to know that I'm still very interested. Over 80% of this development lies within 400 feet of our property.
Excuse me, would you give your name, your address, and your occupation for the record? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
My name is Doug Griffin. Karen Griffin is my wife. So I've got things pretty good, as you can imagine. So there are a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I want to bring up the name of George Chandler again. George Chandler is a hero in this county, and particularly in the city of Winterville. And I spoke to George twice about this matter subsequent to the last meeting. And I feel very free to say to you that he is still dead set against this thing, even though he's deceased. So I just wanted to recognize him because he's a hero to many people for his service to this county. I went out today because I was interested in the sort of commercial part of this, and I went to one of the mixed-use developments that's well done on the east side of Athens. You'll be familiar with it when I mention it. It's Ansonboro. It's been there since 2005. It has about 15 commercial properties, also some multifamily. Of the 15 commercial properties in this well done, well thought out, well parked thing, 3 of them are operating. Now, this is on one of the most busy intersections in Athens-Clarke County. It's at the intersection of Cedar Shoals Drive and Gang School Road. That's probably in the top 5 intersections in this town. If we got 20% of that thing occupied in that intersection, what are we going to have occupied in the country? Which is where this is being asked for. So I wanted to make that point. 10 variances. Now, that signifies to me, having been involved in development in Athens-Clarke County for 40 years, that signifies 2 things to me. Number one, if you're asking for 10 variances, you don't have a compatible use, or you just simply wouldn't have to ask for that many variances. We've developed property in Athens-Clarke County. We sort of know what we're talking about with respect to that. The second thing is, if we approve any development, not only this one, but any other, with 10 variances, then that destroys the bedrock of what we're trying to do, which is governmental oversight of what's happening. which I fully support and which I have been made to abide by at various times. So I just wanted to make that argument as well. So that's it. I see my time is up. Thank you for your service to our community. It goes without saying, we certainly hope this thing is not passed.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
No, ma'am.
All right, then having none, we will come behind the rail and have conversation, hear from planning commissioners. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment? Ms. Kinman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and get this started because I know that other people have to say, but I actually want to congratulate both the applicant and the people who came out to speak tonight. You really did set up the arguments for and against this development very clearly, and that's helpful for us as we try to deliberate. Our job is to determine if this is a good use of the land. Well, that's what we do is land use. So I will say that the biggest issues that concern me are the encroachments into industrial zoning. I think that is a major land use consideration that we should not take lightly. I also, maybe I should have said this first, but this is in the green belt. So it's a type 1 for a reason. We're asked to change how we thought this area would develop when we created our comprehensive plan that then led to the land use plan that led to the zoning map. So I have not heard anything tonight that mitigates those two huge concerns. I'm trying to see if there's and one person, I think, speaking in opposition to the development, made reference to it might be hard for people like us to turn down a development that might add to the tax base, but this is a largely residential development. So I think it's important that we all recognize and acknowledge that residential development is not a net contributor to the tax base. Commercial and industrial land generally is. So I don't think we need to be concerned with those kinds of considerations. The strong argument in favor of this type of development is providing more housing types and more, a better variety. So it's not all just 2,000 square foot single family houses. You've got some options here that might help a family move up the housing ladder. However, I'm not persuaded by that argument because I think that the location is not where we're trying to go as a community in getting those kinds of units in. Our zoning map is grounded in the idea that we're trying to get affordable housing closer into town, closer to services, on bus lines, certainly where water and sewer are available already. So I've thrown those points out. I'll just I'll end there. But I will say, just for the applicant's benefit, I really haven't seen anything that would make me feel this is a good idea in this location. And the 10 variances that are required certainly need some justification.
Thank you. Anyway, yes, Mr. Scarborough.
Yeah, it's hard to follow an opening act like Commissioner Kinman, but I'll probably wind up repeating some of the things that she has said. Having having lived in Winterville years ago before it was cool, I'm very familiar with the area. I'm very familiar with the character of the east side of Athens. I still live on the east side, but much farther south now, sadly, sometimes. But I will say it's fair to say that there is a lot to like about this development, but I don't see anything that makes it the right thing for this spot. And that's what it all boils down to, is that it's a great idea in a not very good location, and unfortunately, because of the way we've designed our county, we've put a lot of thought into the way the county will develop and will grow, and this is not the area. And as Alice said, the dual encroachment, not just on the employment zone, but also on the very rural agricultural zone. It just doesn't fit in, and as much as I would like to appreciate it, I just can't see anything that offsets the detriment that it brings to this part of town.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jim.
Jim, you are still muted.
There you go.
I echo what both Alice Kinman and Jeff Scarborough have said. I agree with the developer that some of these variances will eventually possibly be compatible with some of the proposals that were just recently put forward about affordable housing. And so there might be not quite as many in the future, but I agree that that double encroachment is a very serious problem. And I also agree with the comment of one of the opponents to the project that this really is largely a multifamily development, and it's incorrectly classified as RS8 PD for that reason. I'm very concerned about the huge increase in predicted traffic on Old Alberton Road, especially given how curvy and difficult that road already is. It's going to require major tax expenditures to fix that, and the county is going to pay for it. And as pointed out by others, the revenue will not come back from the residential development. So in summary, I think there are a number of really excellent ideas in this proposal, but because of the location, I would recommend that they find an alternative site.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Kristen.
I mean, I'm basically saying this in the interest of, you're here to hear from us. So, I want you to get the, what we have. But, I'm just adding this as a former resident of Palm Beach County, Florida. I watched as the county slowly ate away at its agricultural zone. And it was really sad to watch, seeing development start to, once you take a chunk and then you take another chunk and then another chunk, and it's like a domino effect. And, I think I really appreciate all the work that's been put into this plan. It's really beautiful. But I also think if you're given hundreds of acres to work with, you almost have like this beautiful open palette to work with. I don't think, to me, it's a square peg in a round hole. There's far too many concerns about the location and the traffic and the sewer issues. And, when you have an entire neighboring community that has concerns about it, that's concerning to me too. So, I appreciate the work, but I'm just worried about this whole development.
Anyone else? Yes, Matt.
I don't have anything unique to say, but in the interest of giving the applicant a full picture of where as many of us stand as possible, I just want to say I love a lot about this proposal, but not the location. I don't think it's the right location for it, as others have said. But there's a lot of stuff in this proposal that I think is really admirable and good, and that I could support in a more appropriate location.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have 2 or 3 things that I would like to add. Starting with 2 or 3 things that haven't been mentioned. One is you talked about mass grading all of this, and having recently spent a little time looking at mass grading. The reason we have the mass grading ordinance that we have now is because of this kind of request. As I understand, it's proposed that the 3 phases will take 6 years. And so to mass grade a piece of property that's going to take 6 years to complete is exactly why we have the mass grading ordinance we have now. People are not willing to look at property in that way for 6 years. Then another component, I went back and looked at my notes as I was preparing for tonight, reading, and looked at my notes, and there was concern about the fact that this property is in the Broad River Conservation District. And I believe that we asked at that time, had there been any communication with the district and what that was, learning that there had not. I didn't hear anything tonight that would have indicated to me, or I didn't read anything. Perhaps I could have overlooked it, but I tried to be thorough. I didn't read anything in that since September when we spoke with you. There has been any communication with the Broad River Conservation District. I think that might be important to do. I'm really concerned about the future land use. The designation for the property now is rural. I think that's the context of all the comments that we're hearing tonight. This is a rural area by design, not by accident, but by design. And square peg and round hole, a nice thing on the wrong land, all of that kind of sums that up. A good development, but in the wrong place. I also think that it's basically a multifamily area. And so I kind of have some issues with what we're asking for overall. I think that the applicant needs us to do a little more thinking about how we're asking that the property be zoned. I don't think the request is quite on what the property is really going to be. And the 10 waivers just speak really loudly to me. You have 10 waivers. It just doesn't fit. It is important to know that we received, at my count, I hope it's not give a few, take a few, I counted carefully, but we received 25 written letters or emails from people who were opposed to this. We didn't receive one from anyone who was in favor of it. So and that's kind of similar to what we heard from the people here tonight. And then the whole industrial area idea, the preservation of the land, the agricultural land and the industrial area are huge to me. So I just think this is not the development for this property. And I guess that all of that's been said enough. Oh, I can't stop without saying the school. How could I not add in about the school? I think a development like this just suddenly opens. I can't imagine. And you know, Coal Middle is a middle school, but whoa, you could fill a middle school out of a development like that. So I think developments like this, agencies in our community need a little time to be ready for something like that. If Mr. Tumlin, you mentioned that some of the students who are in the middle school come from another area in Athens, and some of those do, and you were in support of the fact that we then could fill the school with children from Winterville. But the bottom line is those children who have to leave the school have to have somewhere else to go, and there's not a lot of open space in Clarke County at all. So I think that's really a huge point, that with the development of this size, we have to give some other agencies time to prepare. So Sarah, I'm so sorry, Sarah. Did you raise your hand? I jumped right in. I didn't know you wanted to speak. Go right ahead.
I didn't. I just decided I did want to say something, but I don't want to interrupt you if you're not finished yet. Okay. I know for me, it's frustrating as a planning commissioner to listen to an application and a set of public comments that are nearly identical to the last time we saw it and heard it. And I didn't really see anything in the report that felt like the petitioner had heard anything that anyone said, either from a commissioner standpoint or from a public standpoint. And I would just urge Mr. Tumlin, because this is unusual in the sense that we're seeing it 3 times, I would love to know when you come back what you did between tonight and that next meeting with the application that's different or in some way responds to the concerns we've expressed about this land use. I agree with every comment everyone has said. I like the development. I don't like it in that location. And I just, I believe in this process. I believe in everybody's right to say whatever they need to say for or against it. But I would love to see a little bit of movement or some indication that these comments have been heard. That's all.
Thank you, Sarah. With that, are there any other comments? I don't want to cut anybody off. Mr. Tumlin, you have a time to respond, 2 minutes. If you would like to take that time, you don't have to. That's up to you. Mr. Tumlin, yes.
I mean, we keep coming back to the industrial area across the street. The residential and industrial does work together. You have it all over the county. I don't see where we're a negative to the industrial. If anything, we're a positive to the industrial areas because we're bringing them housing that the people that work there need a place to live and somewhere close to live. That's down on traffic. The traffic issues, that's why we're doing a traffic study, and the road improvements will be done, and those will be done at the developer's expense. So we're working towards all the avenues. The sewer system is what we're taking care of, not an issue for the county. We're trying to do the improvements. There's not much that needs to be done other than on the site itself, and that's a private pump station. Not an issue. I've talked to the sewer department about that already. I feel like y'all keep coming back to the point, you love the development, but not in this location. This location has a school system, transit. It has industry across the street and down the road. It has what you need for development. You can't just exclude us from this zoning when it's the benefit of the entire county, not just the trying to keep everything rural as a farmland. It's not going to be farmed anymore. That time is over. The farmland that's across the street is zoned industrial. It's been there for 20 years, and the reason they haven't been able to sell it yet is because they don't have the sewer there. What we're doing will help provide that. We're going to be helping the industrial side of it and the residential side of it. We're not there to hurt the community. We're trying to benefit the community. And that's really all. And I will address all comments and be back with you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Tumlin. I appreciate it. And I think that concludes our discussion about the first agenda item. So we will move on now to our second item, which is a preliminary plan development at 175 Tracy Street. case number PD-2020-10-2863. The purpose of the request is to rezone a 7.20 acre parcel currently zoned as employment industrial, EI, to EO, employment office plan development, in order to create a mixed-use development which combines elements of commercial, industrial, and residential. Rick, would you, are you presenting this, Rick?
Yes, one more please. Got the wrong PowerPoint back up. Just a second.
I think everybody does really well doing these meetings virtually. It's difficult to do. So, planning commissioners, that's you too.
All right. Can you see this?
No, we can't.
Okay. Okay. Hold on a second.
We're at your Okay, Rick, I think it's coming. Yes, we have.
You got it? Okay. All right, this is the location of the site at Tracy Street and Barber Street. And the current site conditions are it's undeveloped at this time. See the railroad track to the south, Tracy to the north, Barber Street to the west, excuse me, the east. The employment future land use designation is proposed for now to stay as it is. We have some Main Street business, some government, and some traditional neighborhood nearby. The zoning would change from EI, employment industrial, to EO, employment office, plan development. The request is to construct a mix of residential, commercial, and industrial elements. There's 108 bedrooms, which is a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units, along with some commercial construction and some industrial. It's about 7.2 acres. There's some workforce housing proposed, and then also proposed as amenity building with a series of kiosks for leasable commercial startup space, 157 parking spaces, and some pedestrian amenities, including a 10-foot multi-use path constructed to Greenway standards. And again, this includes a request to change zoning from EI to EO, and the future lands category is employment. There are 4 waivers requested to allow for reduction in minimum setback. This is basically along Tracy Street because there's some environmental areas running through the property that's requiring some of the buildings that crowd closer to Tracy Street. Also to allow for mixed-use development, that's mixed-use buildings. In EO, residences aren't allowed above businesses like in commercial zones. So this was to allow the mixed-use buildings. And then a waiver to increase percentage residential square footage above the maximum 20%, up to about 85%. And then a waiver to forego the required landscape buffers. This is again like along Tracy Street where there would not be a 10-foot buffer, for example, just be closer to the street. So that's the 4th waiver. The site plan here, again, you can see down the middle of the property is environmental areas. There is a pipe of the stream in the middle of the property. We still are showing this as floodplain. It hasn't been, to our knowledge, there hasn't been a map amendment to the FEMA maps on the property. So we still show it as an environmental area actually on our maps. But otherwise you have riparian buffers where the stream is daylighted. You can see the railroad track down here to the south and west, Tracy Street to the north, and then Barber Street to the east. This is a color rendering of the property from above, and then some architectural renderings. And some of the architectural detailing. Okay, so tonight we're basically receiving with comments. Again, this is a preliminary plan development, so it's for the benefit of the applicant to hear from staff and neighbors and the Plan Commission, so they can come back with a master plan for a formal recommendation by the Plan Commission. Staff does have concerns, again, whether we're calling this appropriately, this development, since employment is basically, as it says, employment zoning for office and manufacturing. It's not a primary residential zoning. It is compatible with employment future land use. It's just a matter of whether the zoning is compatible with the proposed development. We also have mentioned in our report, we've had a lot of multifamily development throughout the county recently, and in this case, we're actually rezoning industrial land for more multifamily, and we've seen some of the commercial property elsewhere also for multifamily. So there's just a concern similar to what we saw before the recession with single family going everywhere. Pretty much we're seeing multifamily in all kinds of zones being requested now, whether it's a planned development or special use. And so there's just a concern there about preserving some of our industrial areas. And then there's a lot of technical standards. I won't go through all these. These are all listed in the staff report, but several minor technical comments as well. So that concludes the staff report.
All right, thank you very much. And so now we'll hear from applicant. Brett, Nave, are you doing this one?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Try again, Brett, we didn't hear you very well.
How's this, any better?
It's better, it's a lot of echo.
An echo? Let me turn my speaker down. Is that any better, Maxine?
Yes, much.
Okay. Be aware that now I can't hear you, so maybe wave your hand if you're back and forth. Yeah, or that. So. All right, well, thank you. Brett Nave, 675 Pulaski or 200 Plum Valley Architects. Thank you very much. I just wanted to start with the vision. I mean, we envision this parcel. We realize that the zoning, we don't know quite what to ask for, honestly, so it's a question back. But
Brett,
we envision this parcel as kind of a warehouse district. Ooh.
Brett, I'm sorry, we're not able to understand what you're saying.
You can't hear me?
Well, I can't. That's better.
Interesting. Okay. Let me see how close I can get coming out. Is this any better?
I defer to my colleagues. Is that better? Sort of, they're saying. Sort of.
Bear with me.
When you stood up and walked closer to whatever it is you were getting close to, we could hear you clearly.
Yeah, I'll try. Is this any? I can't get much closer. I'm part of my monitor, so.
That's better. That's better.
Okay, I'm gonna turn you way down in case there's an echo. You still hear me okay? Anybody? Yes?
Okay.
I'm saying yes, and others kind of no. Okay. Huh. How about I just almost yell? Is this any better? Okay. It's going to be strange for me. I may pass out and hyperventilate. But generally speaking, it's very out of my character, so I will do my best. Oh my gosh, what, Maxine?
I just was making a joke. Remember, I'm always the one that says, Brett, would you speak louder, please?
I'm well aware. I'm always afraid of that. So I do hope you can hear most of this. But anyway, my apologies. But we're really looking at this. I mean, we mentioned in our descriptions in the report that we see this as this area, even though we understand it's zoned a certain way, it's kind of in the middle of the edge. And we see this as truly as a transition zone at the edge of neighborhoods. It's evolved a little bit, I feel like, even since I've been here. And so our approach to this is kind of this smallish warehouse district vibe neighborhood that is people-centric and landscape-centric, and specifically not automobile-centric. I mean, there's some things that we have to do, such as the road cutting through, do it a certain way. But in general, we're trying to focus on the upcoming multimodal, the greenway, the easy walk to neighborhoods, little boutiques and shops around there, and we really like this place to become a node and complement the amenities that are already there. In seeing this as a transition district, I mean, we're looking at the Tracy Street lofts that have the cotton press and yoga studios, salon, canopies there. I mean, they're moving down a little bit. And then right next door, we've got Adrian's Active Climbing, which is a huge amenity, and Bouvet and State. There's another little project coming in between Active Climbing and Bouvet and State. So we feel like bringing a little bit of that type of thing along onto Tracy Street and into the middle of this property is just simply a compliment. It's kind of more of what's there. And and thinking also about the neighborhoods across Barber and just a stone's throw across the tracks to the south, to Marcy's and Micah's. They're going to probably speak a little bit later with some things that they have questions or concerns about. But they're right across the street or across the tracks, and it seems like the kind of place you don't want more noise or more truck traffic or big metal building warehouse style of things. It seems like something that is far better suited to the things that are coming to life there already. So along those lines, we presented some retail commercial along Tracy. You can tell, as Rick pointed out, we have some environmental areas. And Rick, I think Ed can fill you in at some point. We did have that map revision done. I think it's just not for you on the floodplain. And so we're looking at retail along Tracy, at kind of a mix of back and forth, not solid retail. We don't think this is like a boulevard downtown type thing. And we're also looking at the ideas to have some little kiosk spaces in the middle where we take the buffer zones and the environmental space and create truly a park space that's an amenity to the entire area, we think. And in the middle, create a little plaza with some startup kiosks, with the idea that, there's a lot of really good ideas in Athens, but it's so expensive to, get visibility in a downtown storefront or anything like that. And if we can create some little spaces that are good outlets for all kinds of ideas, I think we feel like allow this building, even the small one in the middle of the site, to be the support for them. So it's like shared bathrooms and prep space or anything that might be needed for that type of start. We think that all of these things just kind of fit the vibe that's going on in that warehousey area across the street and along Barber. So we think this fits. I mean, it feels right to me. We've looked at a couple of other ideas here, and this is the thing that just really feels like, yeah, this is a good idea. And I know that there's a concern, we've seen it in the last several months and different planning staff reports, and I think it's real that there's a lot of multifamily projects going around, albeit this one's really small. One of the things we do know, and we've got a list of about 25 or 28 or so of the current projects that the planning department's tracking, and they're all like Lexington Road, Cedar Shoals, South Millage, you know, those kinds of areas. There's nothing over here, and this area is expensive to live. It's hard to find anything. I have employees that have this very problem, and one of the things that I can say here is that because of the mix, you see, I think there's 87 units and 3/4 of them are one bedrooms. Also realize these are nice. They're 12-foot ceilings with 10-foot headlights and big warehouse gridded steel replica windows, that kind of thing. They're not that cheap as you can do student things that we're all always looking at with these big projects. There's nothing over here. We think that if we can provide one bedroom units and actually the rents that our clients talking about land at 85% AMI just for all the one bedrooms, it's 945 is what they're telling us for the one bedrooms with some of the utilities. And so even if you know, I've tried to read through that 98-page thing you guys put together. It's pretty fantastic. And I think it's following that pretty well. So I feel like, I mean, we don't exactly know how to zone this, but I feel like this is the right thing in this area. It kind of fits what's going on there. We did intentionally put, we de-emphasized parking because we want to emphasize the landscape and the greenway coming through there and this multimodal that's quite on its way along Harbor. The number 8 line is right there. It connects past out to Holland Park and so on and back into town. We feel like it's such an easy walk to Normal Town and to the west end of downtown that it's a great spot for a neighborhood. So, you know, backing up a little, I mean, we often start by talking with the planning department or commissioners, and here we spoke a bit with Melissa Lane, see what she thinks fits, and she connected us with John Devine of Boulevard Neighborhood Association. John helped us really on some really good insight on this. She also connected us with Marcy White, who I think is going to speak here, I think in the opposition end, but I think really more of a dialogue. She reached out after Melissa connected us, and she and Micah and Adrian from Active Climate came over last Friday and kind of walked through the approach to landscaping and site lighting and noise reductions and all of those. And one of the things that is interesting, and I think everybody's going to need more help on this, is I think she's going to talk about the quiet zone idea with the CSX, which is above my pay grade. I don't know how you do something like that, but it does seem like something that, while the development couldn't do anything specifically about it, you know, we, the neighborhood, we're in the Leathers building right down the track. You know, I'm on the board of this Leathers building, you know, so there's, you know, 40 people in here that we can help with collection of neighborhood folks and see if there's some sort of foster approach that maybe the city can help with. So I think it would benefit everybody in the area. I don't know how possible it is, but in general, that's really it. I mean, hopefully you can tell from the rendering, we're trying to make kind of a people-centric, landscape-focused, park-centric design here, and so, you know, well, Ed Lane's here. I think Ed Lane's on the call for Smith County Group, and I do kind of miss being there in person because we kind of get this dialogue back and forth. So I'm still not, you know, it's still weird to be little squares on the screen. So I hope you can still hear me okay. I'm almost out of breath, so I'll be quiet, but we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this and any insight and from the neighborhood as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brett. We appreciate you trying to yell for us. It was helpful when you were yelling. All right. We will now move to hearing from the public. Do we have people in our auditorium who would like to speak in favor of this application?
No, ma'am.
All right. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes.
All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marcy White, and I live at 240 Beulah Avenue, right across the tracks from where this development is proposed for. And I'm not really coming to speak in opposition to the development, but also not in favor. I just want to express some concerns about it, most of which me and some neighbors have already talked about with Brett Nave a few days ago. And I also submitted a letter to the Planning Commission, which I hope you all got, that was signed by 27 neighbors who live close to the proposed development. And so with 87 apartments and I don't know how many commercial spaces, maybe a dozen or 24 commercial spaces, this development would really transform that little area of town. And I want to say that on the whole, the development seems very nice and thoughtfully designed and really a pretty good fit for that area of town. It could be that there's too many apartments for that lot. I'm not sure. I can't really envision how that would go exactly. But the concerns that I have are, number one, I'd like for the designers to ensure that my neighbors who are even closer to the development won't have apartments looking down into their yard and destroying their feeling of privacy back there. And number two, that the lighting from the development won't be too bright and disturbing to everybody living adjacent to the property, especially that parking lot on the back there next to the tracks. Number three, that the health of the creek that runs through the middle of the property is protected. And I would like to see the builders carefully following ACC guidelines about protecting the creek. And also if they could consult with the ecologists at the Upper Coney Watershed Network, I'm sure that they would be happy to help with any advice about that. The development's going to cause an increase in traffic on Tracy and Barber Streets. The train crossings that pass directly over those streets already make them kind of hazardous, especially the Tracy Street crossing where there's very little anything. I think there's just some stop signs there. So that should probably have added safety measures anyways. And then the other concern, which Brett mentioned, was about the quiet zone, which it's a concern for the whole area there and will certainly be a concern for any residents of that development. And when they first move in, they might think the train is fine and good, and pretty soon they'll realize that it's not, and that actually the train is more than a nuisance. It disturbs everybody along the tracks. It's more than just, stopping your conversation and plugging your ears while the train goes by for that minute, and it goes by probably 10 to 15 times a day. The train sounds its horn at a decibel level of 95 to 110 decibels every time it goes through, and it sounds its horn all the way through. And that is more than enough. That's more than loud enough to damage people's hearing, and it does damage people's hearing. I've lived there for 23 years, and my hearing is damaged. And I anticipate that everybody in that development will care about this issue. And every single neighbor who I've talked to along that stretch of tracks would love to see a quiet zone implemented there. So I'm really hoping that ACC officials and the developers and the neighborhood and CSX can work together to make this happen and make it kind of a part of the greater plan of this development to increase the quality of life for everybody along that corridor there where the train goes by. And I believe this is the only place in all of Clarke County where the train has to sound its horn like that. And I think that as the neighborhood becomes more and more densely populated, it's just time to address this issue. So I hope that Brett Nave and DNA Architects and the Smith Planning Group and the Foresight Engineering Group will commit to working on the quiet zone with the city part of the plan, which would improve the quality of life for every tenant of the mill now, going into the future, and everybody in that part of town. So thank you for your attention and consideration and your work on this. And thank you, Brett.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else there? I want to be sure I'm not, sometimes people get on the periphery and I don't see them. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
There's not.
All right. All right, then we'll come behind the rail and discuss this development. Commissioners? Jeff?
It's interesting, and I certainly applaud the thought of a quiet zone. I know who's going to wind up paying for it, and I hope he's ready for that. But one thing that might concern me, and I don't know what thought has been given to it, but if I lived in the middle of this development and I wanted to walk towards Normaltown, would I walk all the way around to Windburn, or would I just cross the tracks and walk down Beulah Avenue? I know it's all overgrown down in there, but who knows? And I guess I would want to make sure that there are no shortcuts put in, no ability for a shortcut to be made through there. If there's some kind of fencing or vegetation or something that makes it easier to go the right way than the wrong way. In general, though, I'm interested in this. It's a location that I might not have thought about for this sort of thing. I've seen that empty piece of property for a long time and wondered what might happen to it. So this does look promising. I'll be interested to see what everybody else has to say, though.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? Other thoughts? Yes, Kristen.
So I have some notes that I've been taking. So yeah, Jeff, it's interesting. You bring up the connectivity, and I was kind of curious about that too. Like specifically too along that railroad corridor. I know in the past I've worked with some people who wanted to do sort of like a little tour along that area, and it was always difficult getting from like the Leathers building over to the Tracy Street buildings. And so I was curious if there might be some sort of talk a little bit more about the plan to make those connections that were maybe through that development and not necessarily like sort of vertically through the boulevard neighborhood, if that makes sense, like how to make those connections. And before you get into that too, I wanted to just mention with the railroad, I was kind of hoping as I was sitting here, a train might pass, because I am like 3 blocks from that same stretch of track, and it is loud. And I would be interested to see how a development might affect traffic flow across that Windburn intersection, because my understanding is that it's just a really tiny intersection with the little arms that come down, and that is like a main reason why the train blows its horn through that section, because that intersection is so poorly guarded by the crossing guards. And it would be interesting to see how. So I don't want to see a lot of traffic through there, but at the same time, it might benefit by getting CSX to upgrade that crossing, because I know they won't do it without more traffic going through there. And then Brett, too, before I get you kind of back on the line here, to talk about the connectivity, I was curious about the commercial square footage and kind of what was that size of the commercial area that you were talking about with this?
Brett?
Yes, I'm just turn this speaker down so I don't echo for you. Is that okay, Maxine?
Yes, it is.
It's not huge. We're trying to keep everything kind of small. I'll have to remind myself, but I think we have, just basically from memory, close, building A, which is I think you guys have it, but just in case, building A on the left right here, in the point next to Windburn. The ground floor of that one, we have retail, and it's only around 4,500 square feet. We think this is best as something that can be broken up into smaller spaces. So we've set this up so that even the residential units fall on a module, so that if in the future, we wrote a little bit about this, Kristen, in the report, but I don't know how well I elaborated, but the thought is that we start with some retail space. So building A, ground floor is retail, and building D, which is across, it's closer towards it's the far end towards the northeast corner. We have kind of a shop space. We refer to it as industrial. We see that as like an open studio, kind of anything shop space. And then the rest of the commercial is in the middle, those little kiosk pieces. So we probably have, Ed may have to raise his hand and chime in and help me on this because on the fly I'm not remembering, but we probably have about 7,000 square feet, but scattered around so that it can be smaller. Oh, Maxine?
I was just going to say, when you turn sideways, we don't hear. It's when you when you look straight to us that we hear you well.
I didn't hear any of that. I'm sorry.
I said when you turn sideways is when we can't hear you. When you look straight at us, we hear you better.
Got it. I'm sorry. So just to back up a little bit, I was trying to say that there's not a ton of retail, and we've set it up where we think it will be broken down into small spaces, because we also see this as kind of a live work opportunity where the Tracy lofts already have kind of interesting little pockets throughout there. One of the things I tried to write about in the narrative is that we've set all the apartments and the retail space up kind of on modules. So this could evolve. So if in 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, if this has gotten more active from a retail standpoint, it would be easy enough to come in and say, okay, now this ground floor space, because of the way it enters, it's similar to Mathis. If you enter and just go left and right, it's not one big mass storefront scenario. We feel like it's adaptable to become different things over time, because this is, when we refer to this as a transition zone, I think it's still transitioning. I don't know that it's done. So we want to be careful. And that's another reason that the benefit of these tall 12-foot ceilings and 10-foot head height gridded replica steel windows, that works for a live work shop or a little boutique, that's 800 square feet, or you can cut it in half. So that's kind of our approach. I don't know if that fully answers it, but okay.
Thank you. Next. Brett's here for comments. Alice?
Yeah, thank you. I basically, I think this is a very exciting proposal. I think the big ask is the residential. We just had a conversation about this with the last application, although these are very different proposals. But it is true that we're looking at a proposal that's asking us to up the residential from 20% to 85.6%. I think that's what's in the staff report. So I feel like the question is, how do we weigh these residential uses against the potential benefits of non-residential uses in an area like this? In contrast to the last proposal, this is obviously more. This is a better location. And also what I appreciate about this proposal, especially the residential component of it, is that it is an interesting mix of residential uses that are, I feel, probably really in demand. The one bedroom component in particular. So I'm not really even asking any questions. I guess I'm just saying, philosophically, if we're going to encroach on employment land or move EI to EO, sorry, is that the yeah, got that right. Then this is the kind of location and the kind of housing type that I am interested in looking at. So I basically like the way this the direction of this, and I really appreciate Kristen's questions about the commercial uses, because that's the balance, right? We want to get that right.
Thank you. Next, yes, Matt Hall.
Yeah, I just like Alice, I'm really excited about this project. I think it's beautifully designed. I really think there's a lot to recommend it. I am very familiar with that parcel. My daughters went to Canopy for 10 years, so we were over there all the time, and it's always been an obviously troubling parcel for development, right on the train tracks, and weirdly triangular. It's kind of, I can see that it's a difficult parcel, and I think the applicant's done a beautiful job of working with it. I'm also pretty familiar with the warehouses right across Tracy Street where Canopy is, and some of the other small businesses that have started there, and some of the residential that's there. And I think this fits in beautifully, both from a design standpoint and from a use standpoint, with that particular area of Athens. And let me just put in a word for this unit mix. I love the small units as opposed to large units. I think that Athens has a tremendous number of 4 and 5 bedroom rental houses and a real shortage of 1 and 2 bedroom houses. And as in our work on affordable housing and other things that the Planning Commission's been working on recently, we've learned that the sort of demographic trends are towards smaller households. Nobody's having 6 kids anymore, or not very many people are. And so, young families, retirees who are downsizing, single people, young couples, all want small units, and there just aren't that many of them, particularly not well-designed, attractive ones like these. So I think it's wonderful just from top to bottom.
Thank you. Next, Jim.
Okay. I think you've all made some excellent points. I would make one point about the 20% area given to residences, that this is a relatively small site. And so it's not an overwhelming number of units. Whereas if this were applied in the previously discussed application, it would be overwhelming and really difficult to deal with. But on 7 or so acres, 60 to 80 units is something I think it is manageable. The density is not that high.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Sarah.
I don't think I have anything too much to say other than more than what other people have said, but in general, I know that staff brought up the concern of putting so much residential adjacent to industrial uses, a sort of concern about like future complaints from the limitations on industrial uses adjacent, and that impact on those residences. But just looking at the zoning map and really looking at what's immediately adjacent to this property, it's for the most part, with the obvious exception of the Tracy Street warehouse development, there's a lot of residential right around there. So I don't have a problem with that residential at all, and I think it brings a lot of life back into this kind of dead seeming, with the exception of a lot of kudzu property. I'm really glad the neighbors spoke up. I really hope that you all really, I'm sure you will, think about what they've brought up. I think those are really important concerns. And I think that there's a ton of benefit from trying to push forward with this, with working with CSX and the city and whoever else would need to be involved on the train issue. Trains sound horns for safety reasons. So if you create a quiet zone, then I think Kristen brought up that you then also need to think about the safety of that crossing. I'm always surprised by the number of people that die on our train tracks in Athens every year.
And so I think we do need to think about that. But in general, I like it. I do really think the neighbors' concerns need to be taken seriously. And that sounds like that conversation has already started. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, I want to expose another side of my geekiness and say the quiet zone doesn't eliminate the horns. What it does is it takes the horn off the train and puts it at the grade crossing so that the horn can be not as loud because it doesn't have to be heard a quarter mile away. So it does become quieter while there is still an audible alert as well as a visual one. But something Kristen said about windburn, and I took a look, and Tracy, that crossing is protected only by stop signs and crossbucks. There are no gates, there are no arms, there's nothing there. So I would, and again, that's probably something I can only imagine that there's going to be increased traffic there, and I think that I would add that to the list of things that I think should be looked at in respect to increasing the density and the traffic in this area. And so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Rick?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think one of the main concerns we have here is there's a concrete batch plant. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but everybody has not spoken yet.
I was just trying to, when Sarah mentioned about our concern with the industrial area, I was just trying to answer that part.
Okay.
So there's a concrete batch plant right across the street. Basically, a lot of these residences will be staring right at a concrete batch plant, which is the third largest source of air pollution, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, etc. So I think I always said I'm glad we have on staff geographers and landscape architects. A landscape architect can make any piece of property look beautiful. Geographers look at the whole surrounding area, make sure it's in the right place. And, you know, I don't know, I've got a picture here if I can share it really fast. I guess everybody drove out to the site, but this is if you can see that, that's gonna be right across the street from these apartments. So that's just one of our main concerns there. And that's gonna put up a lot of air pollution right there. So that's my main concern about that.
All right, is there another commissioner who would like to speak? Jeff?
I'll just add particulates to Rick's list of nasty emanations from the batch plant. Dust and sand and grit.
If there's not anybody else, I have 2 or 3 comments. My number 1 comment was about the concrete. Oh, excuse me, Katie, you go right ahead, honey. Did you raise your hand? No.
I did. I just wanted to echo a lot of the previous comments. I think the adaptable spaces are great. They could be good for small households or commercial uses, jobs in the future. And I wanted to echo the comment about the neighbors, the neighborhood's concerns. They seem very valid and would improve the project. That's it.
Thank you. With that said, mine, I don't have anything that's terribly different. I did want to bring up about the concrete plant because I didn't know all the technical things, but I know there's a lot of dust here, so that's what the concrete is. So I do think that's I don't know how you take that into consideration, Brett, but I do think that's something that needs to be thought about. I want to commend you all for meeting with the neighbors. I that's really important to me, and I really appreciate you all doing that. I want to say that I love this development. I think it fits perfectly in the area. I think the design. I've been sitting here trying to decide whether I was going to say this or not, because it might be insulting, but I don't mean it to be insulting. I mean it to be a real comment. I love these little food. Are you calling them kiosks? I don't know what you're calling them, little food places in the middle like that. And they make what I was going to say is they make me think about food trucks. And I don't mean that to be I'm not meaning that to be negative, but there's so many cities now where food trucks are all the thing, and they all come into an area, and they're these wonderful small food areas. And I think that creates that. I really like that. And I like the smallness of those. And I think that, as well as the residential, helps to kind of create a community. The thing that I wanted to say glory hallelujah over when I saw was the number of one-bedroom units. And someone, I think Matt said, or someone said, we're so used to opening it up and it's 4 bedrooms, because that's what people are building. And yet we keep on we don't have housing for people who want 1 and 2 bedrooms. And I think this is a direct response to some of the things that we've been saying and that we have that we've identified as a real need. And so I think it does meet that.
Maxine, you became unmuted.
I wasn't even touching it. Well, I don't think it's the sole responsibility of the developer to solve the train problem. I think it is the developer is a key person in the solving of that problem. And someone has to be responsible for leading the work on getting that done. And just because it's not the developer's sole responsibility to solve the train problem, I think the developer is key in working with the community or whoever needs to be worked with to help solve that problem. So I don't want the developer to say, well, we can't solve that problem. So that's important. Those were the key things that I thought, nothing earth-shatteringly different than what anyone else said, but I think it's a really nice development. Suits the surroundings beautifully. Any other comments, Alice?
Sorry, I hate to prolong discussions unnecessarily because, we got more things to do tonight, but I was struck by Rick's comments about his concerns about the pollution across the street. I'm like Matt, I'm very familiar with the site. Back when I used to get my hair cut, that's where I would go. And I've been to quite a few canopy shows. I've probably seen your kids. Anyway, I would be interested in hearing from Brett what have y'all done to think about the concrete plant across the street, pollution, emissions.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Sound is one thing we've thought about, and pollution, and this in our town in general, our prevailing winds are blowing away from this site. Generally speaking, everything is going.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Brett, we can't hear you.
Brett, we can't hear you when you turn sideways.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, just come closer, please. We can hear you fine when you're close.
Okay. Much of the time, prevailing winds help us out on this site since we're south and mainly south, but south and west. That helps. We've thought a lot about sound here, and that's where it's hard to tell because of the scale of this. But these middle buildings, we set back away and are trying to heavily landscape in front. We're trying to soften some of that sound, buffer effectively all of the development as best we can. We certainly can't control wind swirling around, but I think that in general we're in just kind of in a lucky spot relative to that with regards to particular. There's also, I think their general operation is supposed to keep that down as much as possible as well. So you can't control everything, but I do feel like we're in a good spot geographically at the very least to at least keep that from blowing into the site, but we can't keep it generally.
Okay, sounds good. I think I got the gist. Thank you, Brett.
Sorry.
Brett, I have okay, Kristen, may I just finish my question?
Absolutely.
Brett, I have a question about lighting, and also the whole visibility from upper floors into neighborhood yards. Talk a little bit about that.
Got to work on this system. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, obviously the city, we already have a really good night sky compliant, as I refer to it, low exterior lighting wattage, all down lights, and that's really how we approach everything. We do have, and we talked with Micah and Adrian and Marcy about this just a little bit last Friday, and we can provide some exhibits when we bring this back to you, you guys to help see where we're coming from. But generally speaking, all of our lights would be down lights. We don't have, landscape lights that uplight buildings and that type of thing. And generally speaking, night sky compliant is our approach as well. We do have a parking lot along that, along the train side, and excuse me, I don't know whether it's going to be one of the Georgia Power leases or if the lights, I don't know at this time, or the lights are going to be private, but there are a lot of options now for these low wattage LED close to the ground scenarios. And I think we just do an illumination study, which we always turn in when we turn in for permit. You get the what it's called, photometrics. But we can do those kinds of studies early on, even between now and the next time, and sit down with Marcy and Micah and whomever else may be interested and talk about what our lighting strategy is. But I think it's definitely doable, and we've intentionally pulled everything towards Tracy and away from the neighborhoods as well.
It might serve you well to, I mean, there are 25 people that signed this petition, so it might serve you well to talk to more than 2 people, but to try to have some other people there. Okay.
Yeah, I think Marcy is kind of leading that group. So when I say she's been our most recent new contact, and Melissa connected us together.
Kristen?
I was just going to say quickly that Brent's point about the prevailing winds is an interesting one, just because on any given day in this neighborhood, you could smell coffee, you could smell the chicken plant, or you could smell beer. And so but it doesn't happen all that often. So I do recall there's times when like we can smell the chicken plant and everyone in the neighborhoods is like, oh, what does that smell? So it's not like, but it's an interesting point though. I would be curious how about particulates and things like that from the concrete plant. I don't think people really think about it other than the horn. Because it does make its own noise too. But yeah, that is interesting about the air pollution in general.
Any other comments? All right, Brett?
Maxine, you became unmuted again. You became muted again.
Thank you. Brett, do you have anything else to say, or have we spoken enough, all of us?
I really appreciate it, and the dialogue is really refreshing. I appreciate it completely, and certainly we'll keep working with Marcy. It's really helpful to have a group in a neighborhood to bounce ideas off of. So by all means, we'll keep it up and look forward to tweaking this thing and getting it back to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to our third agenda item, which is a parcel at 100 Newton Bridge Road. This is a preliminary plan development, case number PD 2020-10-2875. And the purpose of this request is to rezone the parcel currently zoned I, industrial, to EO, Employment Office, PD, to construct a mixed-use residential, retail, industrial, office, and hotel development on a 35.12 acre site.
Okay, this is the location map at the corner of Newton Bridge Road, Dairy Pack Road, where North Chase Street and Barber Street come in. This is the aerial photograph showing the old General Time West Clocks building. And the future land use employment would remain. The zoning would change from industrial to employment office plan development. This is showing the environmental areas on the back of the property. Won't really affect the development. There is a small piece of the property actually goes down towards the railroad track, but otherwise it really doesn't affect the proposed development. All right, so again, it's from industrial to employment office plan development. It's compatible with existing employment, future land use designation, 35 acres with the vacant factory. Some of it's actually is being used currently. It was constructed in 1954, the addition in the 1990s. So it's renovate and construct a mixed-use residential, retail, industrial, office, and hotel development. There's also some communal green space and event space. And there's 200 residential units broken evenly, 102 bedroom and 101 bedroom units. There's also proposed 150 bedroom hotel, and there's over 150,000 square feet of flexible office, retail, industrial, and restaurant space. Just some pictures showing the location, the site across the street there, as well as the intersection nearby. This is the site plan that was provided for this application. And the architectural elevations. The apartment buildings there, and then this is just some architectural renderings of the site after development. There are a few waivers. There's a reduction in conserved tree canopy. There's the allowance of some uses not normally allowed in the EO zone, such as light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, food processing, manufacturing of non-odoriferous foods, kennels, theaters, wholesale and distribution uses. Also to waive the maximum allowance of 10,000 square feet for retail, restaurant and bar uses in the EO zone. To increase the allowable residential square footage in the EO zone. Again, we have that same 20% we had with the last case as the maximum, and this is to allow it to go to 35%. And there's a residential block size whenever you have multifamily, that's to go from 3 acres to 5 acres. Tonight we're again receiving with comments, some comments from staff. We're looking for more information on the specific uses and maximum square footages. Provide more information on phasing. Staff prefers that the multifamily part either be the same time or follow the commercial development. Instead of being the first part, we'll make sure that commercial development happens, and then remove the heavy manufacturing from allowable uses. Adjust conserved canopy figures, and this is from the arborist, use reforestation area. Coordinate with transit for possible, bus stop. Coordinate with leisure services on the Greenway connection that's proposed. Insert raised walkways throughout the parking areas, and remove. This is just something. The signs really look nice on the buildings. Unfortunately, they don't meet the ordinance, and there's really no allowance through this process for you guys to grant waivers. It's a separate review process, and the appeal would go to the hearings board only. So anyway, this is we just asked that we removed. Otherwise, we'll just have a condition stating that it's not binding. But anyway, that concludes the staff report.
Thank you very much. And we'll hear from the applicant at this time. Is that Mr. Lane, Ed?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to get my video going. There we go. All right. Well, I know it's late, so I'll get right into it. My name is Ed Lane with Smith Planning Group. I live at 1171 Keeneland Drive, and I'll be speaking about general time. So I'm sure many of you saw this project come before this body about 2 years ago, and it ultimately did not go before mayor and commission for various reasons. But since that time, I want to give you a little update about what has been going on out there at the old Athens-Clarke building. So, over these last 2 years, the project owners, the development team, and the design team, we've been working hard and continue to lay the groundwork to make this project a reality. And so over these past 2 years, there has been $15 million invested on this property. And that includes a significant environmental cleanup project that was necessary. And of course, the redevelopment of the northern portion of the site where Terrapin and Wayfair are. So what was once an abandoned West Clocks factory that sat there for several decades now has over 110,000 square feet of leased space, and by the second quarter of next year, we're projecting that it would have about 500 employees working on this site. So all of this work has been done incrementally, which has allowed us, the design team as well as the developers, to better assess some of the existing infrastructure that's there and some of the challenges that have come about because of that. And it's also allowed them to kind of adapt the master plan now, knowing this additional info, as well as interest that they have received from potential tenants. So yeah, all of this progress over the last 2 years has also served as a kind of a proof of concept that has definitely garnered more interest from other tenants that would help make this a reality. And so, so those 2 years bring us to where we are now, and as you know, the pandemic has just had, wide-ranging impacts in all sorts of ways, including with, retail development, office development, hospitality, restaurants, and all of that. So you probably picked up in the application narrative that we were trying to carve out maximum flexibility and adaptability, for as far as what uses would go where in this building, how much exact square footage, the parking. And so a lot of that request was coming from, just the nature of this project, the size of it, and kind of what's going on in the market was allowing flexibility that would still be acceptable to the overall vision of this project. And, one thing I mentioned that it's garnered a lot of interest from prospective tenants. And one common, question that the developers keep getting is, we're very excited, but when is residential coming? They want to know when will that component that brings that livelihood of, people there, all day on the site. So, this can't be called a true mixed use project until it has that residential component to help kind of usher in everything that comes with that. So at this phase of where we are now, there has just not been a local retailer or coffee shop or restaurant that's willing to come occupy a space on this site without either residential there or at least the possibility of residential, with the proper underlying zoning. And so, with that in mind, the development team felt that for the next phase, the next incremental phases for this they would have the ability to have that residential component. So in looking at the general time master plan, we believe that it features many aspects that are desirable and compatible with the larger community's vision statements and policies of what they would like to see. Some of these is the public open space that's included, the redevelopment of an older site, a mix of residential and non-residential infill, and also the potential for diverse tenant types, both possibly large tenants and small tenants mixed together. And so the master plan kind of lays out a true potential for a destination site for Athens that would attract people to a unique live, work, and play environment, and that truly has all of those components. We understand, has been discussed already tonight, but some of the concern with bringing these mixed uses, in particular the residential use, to this corridor, into this area with some industrial neighbors. And that is a valid concern, and I just want to mention a couple of points about this particular site. Many of the adjacent industrial neighbors here, I'm thinking of Power Partners to the north, Georgia Power to the east, and Terrapin to the west, but also some other smaller neighbors. These are all light industrial, and all of these neighbors, the development team has been in contact with them, for over 2 years. I mean, they are kind of often kept in the loop about what is going on here. And because of the nature of those uses, and the addition that, Terrapin across the street has been for over a decade drawing people, to their site. I mean, people bring their families, their dogs, friends, they come hang out in the yard. This is already, it's definitely an industrial area, but it's different, and it has a mix, and people are accustomed to coming here. And so there's also the question of whether a project like General Time would hamper potential investment in this area or this corridor. And we believe in, I think this is fairly intuitive. I don't think you have to be a planner or a developer, but that given what this site is, as this large, huge sprawling industrially zoned site that sat there for several decades, that what's there now versus what's proposed, I think it's intuitive that it would lead to more investment in this corridor in area. It would actually be, a catalyst to bring more investment, and I think including potentially light industrial development. So I think that it really has a compelling case that way. And regarding the architecture, the approach, would have several complementary styles, each appropriate to the uses that would occupy the different portions of the site. And to bring this together, the materials such as brick and exposed structural steel would kind of be used throughout to tie some of this together. With the large building, the existing building, it's a challenge in that it's so large and flat. And so you can see we cut in some pedestrian corridors, driveways, and even some parking aisles to kind of bring people in there so that it's not a shopping mall of, parking all around and you have to walk all the way in. We wanted to kind of punch some accesses in there for it to be more like a grid than just a large, shopping mall. And that also opens up a lot of retail frontage on the interior. And in fact, this has already been done for the Wayfair portion of the development, a road was cut through there that allows better circulation from the front of the site to the back of the site. Just a quick word about signage. We fully understand it's not part of this process right now. It can't be, but the developers felt it was important just to show that they believe that kind of big iconic signage is going to be important for a project like this, like a destination project like this. And so, we're exploring every avenue to try to make this a reality, through the proper channels to try to be able to have this unique signage. And even some of what's proposed here, we're hoping could be more categorized as sculpture or, kind of landmarks and not necessarily signage. But that would help, meet that goal. And so that's all I have. Again, thank y'all so much for your time. I know it's getting late, and I will say that Mr. Ricardo de Rojas is also on the WebEx. He's one developer, one of the owner reps. So if y'all have any questions that you think need to go to him, he is available for that. Thank y'all again.
Thank you, Ed. Friends, I'm here. I've gone off and I can't get the video going again. So I'll just talk and you all imagine me. Did we have part of the 10 minutes left for Mr. Rojas to speak?
So I had Ed starting at 8:18.
Okay. Mr. Rojas?
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Ricardo de Rojas. I get Lane mentioned and presented a very concise and very precise presentation of what we're trying to do, what we've already accomplished at West Fox Rocks. I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia. I just want to put that on the record, right? Because I need to say where I'm living. But I consider Athens kind of a second home. Representing West Fox Rocks as the owner developer. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to work in a beautiful community that has this level of, it's very eclectic. And we look forward to going forward to the next phase. We've put a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears in our property, which is now yours as well, and of the tenants that we've been able to revive out of a brownfield. And we know that it's not easy with the current headwinds of the current market conditions. We understand that, and we've been doing everything we can with the help of Smith Planning Group, with the help of Notting Development, with the help of the architects MPS. Looked at every possible avenue and alternative. And what we presented to you today, we presented in the last few months, is what we think is a culmination or the final approach of what we think will work best for this property. So thank you very much for hearing us tonight, and we welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. All right, we will now, do we have people to move to public comment? Do we have people in the auditorium?
No, we do not.
All right, so we don't have anyone to speak in favor or anyone to speak in opposition. So Ed, you have a couple of minutes of response, however you all want to use that, or if you want to, if you've said enough and want to hear us, that'll be fine too.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's our presentation. So if any questions, certainly, I'd like to respond, but I think we're pass it over to you guys.
That'll be great. Thank you, Ed. All right, friends, we come behind the rail. What comments do you have? Jeff?
Let's try it this way. When we first saw this, I thought, it's an interesting project. There are a lot of interesting features to it. One of the things that I would like to hear more about when we go forward, though, one of the things that interested me was the connectivity by trail, rail trail or greenway or what have you to the rest of the community. And so I know that was, I think one of staff's comments, concerns was working with leisure services to make sure that works and working with transit to make sure the bus works. And so when I see it again, I'd like to hear more about that. So that's one of the things. Other than that, looks like fun.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you, Jeff. Alice?
Yeah, just to piggyback slightly on Jeff's comment there, in reading the staff report, it does say one of staff's concerns. I'm on page 7, at the very bottom of page 7. The applicant should coordinate with the transit department to ensure transit amenities. I was just checking the Athens Transit map, and it looks like we have a bus that goes out there. So, Britt, could you just clarify what y'all are talking about there? Sorry, are we talking about maybe maybe the bus goes into the development, or yeah, just clarify, please.
I'm actually not sure about that comment, but for this type of development of this size, we try to get our transit director to talk with the applicant and make sure we have sufficient amenities. I don't know, Ed, if you've had a chance to speak to our transit department about that.
Yeah. We talked to Butch McDuffie because there is a transit stop. It's on the other side of Newton Bridge Road, and so his concern was, okay, how do we handle this? He wasn't necessarily crazy about putting another transit stop on this side, given the current intersection there. But what we discuss is with the future project that we show in our narrative, where they are going to fix the crosswalks at this intersection, that, in my understanding, was going to alleviate Butch's concern, which was, get people from this side, on the east side of Newton Bridge Road, safely cross over the transit stop, and go. But we would certainly also, if you would like a transit stop on the east side of Newton Bridge Road, that is very easy to accommodate. So I can, on the master, that's something we can certainly revisit with him to see what would be preferred.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Definitely, we've got. I mean, we have a transit master plan, so it's not as simple as just putting a bus stop in a particular location. I know that we have done that in the past when the bus is on that side of the road and the stop is on that side of the road. But I'm heartened to hear about the crosswalk possibilities. But yeah, that'd be a good thing to address in a little more detail when you bring this back.
Other comments? Kristen?
So my questions, I guess I was curious with the renderings. So as I'm going through, and there's this sort of like the brick and tan kind of like I guess there's hotel elevations, there's multifamily elevations. I just wanted to double check on the maps, kind of where all these were. And I guess maybe because when you get farther back in the set, it seems like it just looks like the buildings that aren't part of the original Westclox building, they're like illustrated with like gray with like brick ends, but then in the other renderings, they're more like that brick and tan. And I was just wondering if those were like actual representations of what you all planned. And I guess to kind of further that, I was, I don't know, they just seem, the whole brick and tan just seems really disconnected from that sort of general time aesthetic, I guess, if I could just intrude that much onto your vision, if you don't mind. So I guess maybe that would be my one comment about the design, which I know we're not here to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. That was my one kind of like sad trombone moment and looking through the plans because I love this project. Don't get me wrong. But I just was, I guess, maybe expecting a little bit more from these like residential portions of it. So maybe speak to that a little bit.
Sure. And I wish the architect, could have had the WebEx link to answer this himself, but I'll do, the best I can based on my understanding. So one thing just to clarify, on any of the renderings, the only buildings that are, new structures to be constructed here is the hotel and the 2 multifamily structures. So those were. But I think I know what you're talking about, where it can be a little bit, it could appear confusing with what's in the background because it doesn't look like the existing Westclox building. And what's going on there is that I mentioned it in the presentation. It's really flat. Like those have at its highest point, essentially 17 foot from the slab to the roof, and to create nice kind of spaces that any restaurant or some of these uses want to have. We want to, especially at the corners and kind of at your big focal points, the project kind of needed more height. And so some of those corners the facade would be rebuilt pretty significantly to try to elevate a little bit. Regarding, we welcome any feedback you have on kind of some of those choices. And you mentioned the brick and tan. I did want to just understand what you were getting at there regarding the brick and tan, because the Westclox building does kind of have a plain brick right now. And I think some of that may have a little homage, to that. But again, I don't know, anything you have to say. Certainly, we're taking this down and we'll, work with the architect on.
Yeah, I guess it was. Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So we definitely want to complement, not mimic, but complement the area and also the existing materials. But we do want to share with you the fact that we want to make it attractive, but we want to have some flexibility on the materials because we don't know what those are going to be. But the intent is certainly to resonate with the entire area, make it a modern building, anything new that we construct. And I think we put it in the presentation and the documentation that we're looking for that brick, metal, stucco, but we want to have enough flexibility that we can present a product that everybody's going to be proud of and that everybody's going to be willing to be a tenant of.
Yeah, I think, and just to be clear, I don't have a problem with the height at all. It was just, I think it was just more the materials. Like, I think anything leaning more toward industrial rather than like, say, suburban motel, hotel might be more what I could get behind, if that makes sense. But thanks, Joelle.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Well, that's definitely helpful.
Sarah?
I think it's funny. I've been sitting here trying to think about what I'm sort of feeling when I look at this, and I think Kristen's getting at it. And I think just looking at the set of drawings, I think what you pointed out, Kristen, is sort of one part of what I'm talking about. There is this. When I look at like the PD 14, which is the one that shows the gray and brick, I'm a little more enthusiastic about it. When I look at the hotel renderings for multifamily or both, I guess, on like PD 7, it looks like the student housing developments that we have been frustrated to see happen in downtown and some other areas. And so I do really understand kind of wanting to make sure there's some flexibility in materials and sort of make the cost of this project work out. But I think, Kristen, you hit the nail on the head with like suburban hotel. This is a really special site. I think this is a cool project. I really hope that this one can go. but yeah, when I see the drawings on PD7, that stops me in my track, I think, because it looks like something that doesn't sort of honor the uniqueness of the site. Yeah, I think that's probably, in some ways that sort of encapsulates, my questions that I have about this project, I think have been sort of covered in the sense that I'm interested in sort of on the site a little bit more about the sort of pedestrian connectivity on the site. And I think the landscaping of the site is really important. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what you guys come up with there. And I think, there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot it. Anyway, I think I think the idea of this is great. And I, like when I see sorry, I'm having a hard time articulating myself tonight. I see like the front photo or rendering, I guess, on our packet, which is the one that sort of looks like, people kind of walking this one. And that looks very autocentric to me. It looks very much like people trying to walk in an area where cars are being prioritized. And I don't right this second know exactly where that is in the site. Obviously, you have to have spaces on the site where cars are driving and accessing their parking. But I feel like when I look at the stuff, I want to see a little bit more intentionality of the quality of life of people who are living on that site or visiting that site. Yeah, I think that might be it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Jim.
Yes, I was quite impressed in the first iteration of this project with the entertainment venue, amphitheater sort of proposal. And I had to look a little bit hard in this rendering to see that it was still there at all. It's still there, but it's dramatically muted. Is that because of the economic mix-ups and concerns, or what's the story about the relative importance of that venue as part of the whole project?
Sure. So a couple of things on the amphitheater on the previous submittal was a pretty major part of it, and there's two challenges with that. One was the parking demand of that venue. We essentially could not physically fit it on this site, and so the efforts we were going at to try to solve that was essentially like just grabbing up parcels around this to put parking lots there. And that was, the parking requirement, by code to get a venue of that size to work. And then, so there's a parking challenge. But then beyond that, the developer engaged with two, national amphitheater operators. And, essentially they had, I don't know how to put it, but they had doubts that a venue of that size could work. And of course, what has been going on, just one street down Bowl Drive has certainly not helped, that perception. And so the thought with some of the operators was that there's still a way to do an event space, but it needs ability to be both a potential indoor venue that can also have a stage that faces indoors, but for larger ones can face outdoors for more passive area. And so that's what was being attempted here was, we actually, it doesn't look like much because it doesn't have structured seating and concession structures and all of that. But the space here, we did actually model it off of some other spaces for an outdoor event space that could host events of 2,000, 3,000 people. Now, of course, it wouldn't be as intensive, the operation wouldn't be as intensive as a structured amphitheater that was proposed before. But kind of having that flexibility is what we were going for in this iteration based on what the developers learned, talking with the people that operate these, over the last 2 years.
That's right. That's right, Ed. We went to several operators, and this iteration gives us the most amount of flexibility, and at the same time, it works very well with the immediate surroundings without having to, constrain the space to an actual physical structure. This works very well with the landscaping concepts, and it becomes a public area while it's not being used. When it's not being used, and attracts more people in that corner, which is our main corner, main point of access, quote unquote, for pedestrians, bikes, etc. Brings people into the space. So yes, that's Ed just hit it in the head.
All right, are there other comments? My comments are short and sweet. I liked it before and I continue to like it. So I don't have any recommendations. I like the project. All right. If we hear no other projects, and Ed, and you all don't need to say anything else, we will consider ourselves finished. Hope we have helped you. And we'll see you again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, friends, I sent you a chat that says, I'm sorry, but I can't figure out how to get the video back on. I keep getting messages from WebEx, so I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, you all can hear me and we'll be fine. I'll move right on. Let's move to the fourth agenda item, which is our text amendments related to the new downtown development. Rick, are you going to give a presentation, or how would you prefer that we move forward with this?
Yeah, I guess so. Overall, given a general summary of it, we've been asked to rezone an area north of current downtown. And I've got a map. Let me go ahead and share that with you. You can let me go into the boundaries, but all this area would be zoned as commercial downtown.
Rick, I'm sorry. Can I just jump in here for 1 second?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't think we'd go as late as we have. But I have a 9 o'clock phone call that I have to jump off to get to. So I guess I might as well do it now because we're probably not going to get very far into this. Or Rick, how is your presentation likely to be 10 minutes or less?
Yeah, I'll try to be really fast.
I don't want you to accelerate it for me, but I'll stick around until 9.
Okay.
and then I have to duck out.
Okay, I'll just try to explain the basics. So on this map, can you guys see the map? Okay, so we've been asked to rezone this area. This is bounded. We've already done a couple of these parcels back here. Bethel Homes, as you may remember earlier this year, rezoned that commercial downtown. At that time, we gave it a Doherty Street overlay. We didn't have another overlay at that time, so we just extended the Doherty Street overlay design area. If I call it overlay, that's a misnomer. These are design areas. Anyway, so we were asked to zone this all the way back to the railroad track. So we have Council of Aging. We've got Lay Park here, Linden House, the fire station, Hotel Indigo. So this is the area. Also, we want to go ahead and pick up Denny Tower here, which is Housing Authority property, which is now RM. We'd go ahead and bring that into downtown. That would actually go into a Doherty Street, the Doherty Street design area. The rest of this would be in a new North Downtown design area. There's a master plan being done to develop, this area for Bethel Homes. And so You'll see that presented to you at your December 10th meeting. And so I'm working a little bit in the dark here, but we're trying to give standards as what we were told. Some of these standards, and just getting to what was sent to you guys. The main thing is, and I want to show you something else here while we get to this. Sorry, I don't have a better map, but the river area is here along the river in Baldwin Williams, down that area, Mitchell Street, so forth. West End over here, west of Pulaski Street. So all these areas, we would allow ground floor residential as by right, not with a special use requirement, as long as there are certain standards being met. So that's the big change here. Anything built in this area could have the 200 bedrooms per acre, would not have to do the mixed use. So that's one of the bigger changes. You can see that on the first page under L1, permitted subject to associated design standards further back. For the most part, the new North Downtown would mirror the West End and River design areas as far as setbacks, transparency, so it'd be, again, all these standards are applying the same areas of these downtown design areas. So we did change some things about to clarify some things such as primary entrances. We also building materials, and then we also added retaining walls. We were asked to look at retaining walls because we had a large one that was built recently in the downtown area that got a lot of flack for that. So we came with some retaining wall standards. So please look at that, and perhaps over the next month, if you guys want to look at this, we'll present this again in December. I know it's late. Or if you want to go through it more clearly now, we can do that too. Let's see, we stopped sharing there. But back in the back on page 6, we have the ground floor dwelling restrictions. And so we're only going to allow these dwellings to front a local street. They can't be on the other streets that we're mentioning here: Broad, College, Lumpkin, North, Oconee, and Prince. Those would still have to be commercial-oriented streets. Before, we've had special uses come in one by one, asking to exempt commercial on certain streets. And that was exempted on Willow. It's been exempted on East Doherty Street. So, so instead of case by case, some of these areas would just be allowed by right, but they would have to follow these standards. We also want to keep a minimum distance of 75 feet from these streets. So, so we're trying to keep the main streets commercial, because it's commercial downtown, while allowing residential off the main streets on the local streets. That's a quick, I guess that's it in that case, but
I have a quick question. Tell me why are we allowing residential on the first floor in downtown areas?
Yeah, that was what we were asked to do. And so North Downtown being similar to other areas, that was kind of our charge. So again, we've not gone blanket with that. We've required these standards still, that they not be on the main streets, but we were asked to allow the ground floor residential, from the North Downtown area, as well as the West End and the River area. So that's the proposal. We certainly want to hear from you guys on all of this. But this is basically kind of coming from a different direction. This isn't something, we're coming up with. This was directed for us to look at. So we have a master plan being done right now. It will not only include Bethel Homes, I believe it's going to include other parts of that area. And there's a lot of, big movements afoot in this North Downtown area. And this is one of the first changes. The Columbia Brookside type development you saw in Hawthorne, they want to do back here behind us. So I guess Maxine.
Matt.
Sorry, I just had a question for you, Rick, about the ground floor residential thing. When I read through the thing that you had emailed out, like at first, I understood it to mean that that the facade of the building would contain entrances and the dwellings would be fronting on the street. But then on page 6, paragraph 7, it sounds like that's not the case. Subpart C says that there has to be leasable and occupiable commercial space between the property line and the dwellings. So is the idea that the dwellings are recessed back from the street and it's commercial at the street, and then the sort of back of the building is dwellings?
Yeah, this is what we do with parking decks right now. You can't have a parking deck up on a street. It has to have a commercial route to it. So this is the same type of thing. We not having dwellings up on that directly on the street. So it has to have something.
Okay, and then related to that, should the second word in paragraph 7C be buildings or something? You say the dwellings have to have commercial space, but you're not talking about the dwelling units, right? It's that the structure has to have commercial space fronting the street with the dwellings behind that?
Yes, we're saying ground floor dwellings are permitted as long as you have these certain standards met. So it's gotta be wrapped. It can't be on one of these other streets. Gotta be on a local street and have direct pedestrian access to the street. So those are the dwelling standards.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. And sorry to jump the queue. I appreciate your indulging my question before 9 o'clock. So I have to run. Look forward to seeing you guys at our December meeting, if not sooner.
See you. Thank you. I don't think we'll
Bye,
do
Matt.
much. Do we have other questions? Bye, Matt.
All right.
Other questions? For me, it will be helpful when we see an overall presentation of this.
Yeah.
I think, well, that's why I'm not so frantic about going through every single thing tonight, because I think seeing an overall and seeing how it works will help me greatly. Sarah?
Yeah, good. And we'll get that plan out to you guys prior to your December 10th meeting.
Sarah?
Well, actually, Rick, so what plan will you get to us by the December 10th meeting?
It's a master plan of the development that's going to be proposed behind us.
Okay, and so I guess that gets at my question. I mean, obviously, this is being done to pave the way for that kind of development to happen in North Downtown. I'm assuming that's why you guys were given that charge.
Right.
One of the things that has confused me about that project from the beginning is that the people working with Columbia Residential have sort of taken public input or tried to take public input kind of as if they've been given the charge to do an entire plan for the entire North Downtown. But, and this doesn't, necessarily directly relate exactly to this language. It's more of a general, like, I'm trying to get my head around procedure or just sort of the way this whole thing has moved through. And while I know that it's true that we're going to hear from Christina, I've heard from Christina a lot. I understand what they're doing. I think that it's important for us as commissioners and as a community to be a body that asks questions about this process. I don't disagree with the idea of this development happening there. I just, I don't feel like we are always being given all the information in the right order. And this to me is a little bit of an example of, again, a kind of out of order information. And I don't, when you say master plan, I don't know if you're talking about the master plan for the Bethel redevelopment that I think includes the Hoyt, is that the name of those housing right there, Hoyt? They're AHA properties that are immediately north of the Bethel property. Like what, when you say master plan, what parcels are in the master plan you're talking about? Because the master plan is for the Bethel redevelopment, whereas this thing we're talking about is for all of this North Downtown District. Is that right?
I can't honestly answer that right now. I haven't really seen it. So, but I know we're trying to work hand in hand right now as they draft a plan. We're trying to draft standards, so make sure we don't, conflict. So they're very interested in keeping up with this process as they draft their plans to make sure we're going to mesh together. And so, if you guys have any
Who knows the answer to that question? I mean, yeah, who knows the answer to that?
Well, like I say, it'll be presented. We'll send it to you before the meeting next month. But yeah, I don't know the full extent of the master plan. Whether it's, I have heard. I mean, I know there's big plans for not only Bethel Homes but also our building and so forth. There's lots of talk about this whole part of town being changed, and so. This is the first step is the planning, there's the housing behind us. If they've been asked, it sounds like, I wouldn't be surprised if they've been asked to do more than Bethel Homes for a master plan, but I haven't seen it. I don't know the full extent of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I want that question answered. It's actually, I think it's kind of nuts that we don't know the answer and that you don't know the answer. I think we should know the answer to that, even if it's at the very least to be able to, when you hear people in the community talking about it, you can at least be someone who has the correct information that you can provide. And so the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical, I'm happy, Christina's great. I'm happy to hear from her again. I've seen that. I know what she's going to talk about, and I still keep kind of pressing for these answers. And like, who is this? Where do we ask Blaine? Do we ask Brad? Do we ask Kelly? Like, how do we find out what is going on here? Because we need to know what's going on.
What is being master planned?
Yeah.
But like I say, you'll get a plan in a few weeks. So, you're going to have a plan in a few weeks. We'll send it to you before the next meeting. But in the meantime, they want to make sure
Columbia Residential has put together, right?
I'm sorry?
A master plan by Columbia Residential or a master plan by a consortium that includes them? Like, what's that master plan going to be for?
Again, I don't know. I'm not at that level.
Right.
So what I've been asked to do is draft some standards that I was told in certain standards to put in here, and that they're looking at these to make sure that they don't come back with something that you guys don't want at all. I mean, if you guys disagree with some of these standards, they may have a different idea what to come up with, what to come up with the final plan. So I think we're trying to work hand in hand here. The plan's being done as we're drafting standards. And this is the first comment. We're going to take back whatever comments you guys have. If you disagree with some of these, then that may affect their plan before they send it out. I don't think they want to send out a plan that we have different standards. So you guys are, and you guys don't have to comment tonight. I mean, as Brad has said, we can wait till January, see the plan at the same time, go over the standards, and then we can do a recommendation in January. So there's no rush on this. We'll have the plan in place and the standards in December, and then we'll review them together, and then we can have another meeting in January. Any changes you guys want to make, and come out of the January meeting, maybe hopefully with a recommendation. But yeah, as for now, we don't have a plan we can give you because we haven't been presented the final plan. We don't have a plan we can share out there with the public right now.
Okay, Rick. I think we have 3 people waiting to ask questions. Alice, then Jim, then me.
Okay, really just a comment. Sarah, thank you for your questions. I really think they're spot on. And I admit I was very confused by this item on the agenda. We don't seem to have the kind of context that we need to understand what we're being asked to comment on. So I am honestly not prepared to comment on the text amendment tonight because I really don't know exactly what the implications might be of any decision that we make. So yeah, I feel a little bit at sea about this, and I think that Sarah's put her finger on the spot there. That we're just the information. I hear what you're saying, Rick. That we're trying to work hand in hand so that we pass some standards that will shape the Bethel Homes development, the Columbia residential development. But I really can't get this granular without having the bigger picture to think in context of.
Jim?
Do keep in mind that
Rick, let us have the commissioners make all their comments. I think we're wasting time with you responding in the middle of every one of them. So let's let him comment and any others, and then you can respond as you want to. Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what both Alice and Sarah have been saying. And as a good concrete example, you showed a map of the downtown area, but it's really too hard to read to know really which part of downtown we're even really talking about. So we really need to have some documents on paper that we can spend some time with and have a feeling for before we start discussing it.
As I said at the beginning of the meeting, it seemed a little backward to me for us to be talking about these text amendments before we know anything about the project. That seems backward. But what seems more backward to me is that a project would be developed and then we would be asked to make the text amendments go with the project. That seems very backward to me. So I'm dead on with the people who have previously asked, give us the big picture of this, not the minute things, not which little number of text amendments are we going to need to change, but what's the big picture of what you're talking to us about? All right, Rick?
Well, just keep in mind, this isn't about one project. This isn't a planned development we're talking about. This is River District. This is West End District. This is new stuff behind Bottle Works. This is going to affect new stuff coming in down on Baldwin Williams. You know, so this is future projects. But I know they're putting together one plan right now, which they hope to follow these standards. And so do all future projects need to follow these same standards. So we don't really have a plan right now to give to you, but just keep that in mind that not only will this affect Bethel Homes, but it'll also affect any future development, Riverside, the West End and the East End, as well as this North Downtown area. There's still a lot of multifamily projects to be built, you know, in our area and downtown, and this will affect all of them in the future as well. So just keep that in mind. I know we're focused on North Downtown and Bethel Homes, but this is going to apply across the board in three of these design areas. So.
Then I'm even more bothered because what I heard you say was they told us to write these and we did. So I really wonder what we're going to have to do with it. And so I don't know who they is and I don't know who told you and I don't want you to say anything. I think that would put you in a very bad place. But you know, I don't know, that something about that doesn't feel right. It may just be that we don't have enough information, exactly what Alice and Sarah are saying. So you can, you all can talk about the fact that we feel a bit helpless being asked to make decisions about things that we don't know anything about. So maybe that's the short and sweet of it. Sarah?
And if I could just say one last thing is, I don't really have a problem with these text amendments. Like nothing in these is really even raises my eyebrows too much. I guess I probably need to look at them a little more closely. It's and to me, it's not just about whether there's a plan or not. It is a sense of even planning staff, but certainly planning commission being sort of used by this larger project and process without having a full picture. And I guess I'm just trying to communicate that I think our eyes are wide open. And we understand sometimes that, or I understand sometimes that the Planning Commission is a sort of hurdle to go through and might be seen by some people as a body to manipulate. I think from this project, from the very first meeting that I attended about this project, it does seem like we're just not getting the full picture. And so I just want to make it clear, this is less to me about, providing this detailed feedback and more about feeling that I feel I need to have a better sense for what's going on, and just to the extent possible, some honesty about it from a leadership that's, certainly Rick, I know that's not you. I know that's, other players in this that are working at this at a different level. But I just want what's about to happen in North Downtown to be something that we can be proud of, something that we understood the process, something where input opportunities were clear. I think it's overall going to be something good for our community, but it needs to be done with more sort of effective and authentic public input. And by public input, I also mean commissioner input. So hopefully, I know, Rick, these are probably comments for Brad and others, but I just sort of want to state that for the record.
Well, I certainly understand. This is a rezoning process, along with these text amendments would be rezoning a lot of property, obviously. And so, we will hold off. I mean, I know Brad's not here to say, but he has said that, we won't proceed forward while you guys are uncomfortable. So we'll have the presentation next month, I understand, and we'll, we don't have a heavy agenda next month. And so hopefully we can have more time to go over these and explain them better. And so, but yeah, we can, at some point I'll notify, of course, all the property owners and do all the signs and everything else and notify everybody so we can have the public hearing. But we'll hold off on that and just go through, making sure you get a good presentation next month.
Rick, that's great. Be really sure. I think I didn't know enough to even know, but I'm certainly clearer now that we don't want just a really good presentation from Columbia Residences. We want to know about the whole thing. So.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling coming in that we've only had, I think, a couple of alternative compliance appeals to you guys over the years. That's where if somebody can't follow these design standards, then they would appeal to you for an alternative. And I know that probably needs to be explained a lot fuller because most of you guys haven't been through that process and what are these standards about and all that. We need to do a better job of just starting from square one next time. So I'll wait till later to explain about next time agenda. So.
That'd be great. Thank you, Rick. On our agenda, it says that we have subcommittee reports and planning commissioners report and planning director and miscellaneous announcements. I don't really think we have any of that to do. We just did that on Thursday night. So if anybody has anything pressing, that's a part of those, speak now. Otherwise, I think we really took care of those at our first meeting of the month. Am I correct? Yes.
Yeah,
let me see your. Okay, then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. And we're off. Thank you very much for your work, folks. We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.